OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 billion of the Netflix documentary of the 2022 tennis season. It's Eoin and Aisling with you right the way through until 10 o'clock this morning. And in Melbourne time, that's going to be 9 o'clock their time tonight. That is important because we have yet another huge development in the Novak Djokovic story this morning. And over the course of the next 2.5 hours, we expect many, many more developments to come on stream as well. Just to bring you up to speed, if you've just woken up, the Immigration Minister, Alex Hawke, has cancelled Novak Djokovic's visa. This is the second time, of course, that his visa has been cancelled. And yes, you guessed this, there are already signs that it will be appealed for the second time again over the next couple of days. Let's read you out just the statement coming out from Australia today. So this is Minister Alex Hawke. He says, "Today I exercise my power under Section 133C3 of the Migration Act to cancel the visa held by Mr Novak Djokovic on health and good order grounds on the basis that it was in the public interest to do so. This decision followed orders by the Federal Circuit and Family Court on 10th January 2022, quashing a prior cancellation decision on procedural fairness grounds. In making this decision, I carefully considered information provided to me by the Department of Home Affairs, the Australian Border Force and Mr Djokovic himself. The Morrison government is firmly committed to protecting Australia's borders, particularly in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. I thank the officers of the Department of Home Affairs and the Australian Border Force who work every day to serve Australia's interests in increasingly challenging operational environments." Aisling, I wasn't quite sure if they had the bottle to do this, but sure enough, the political gain that they're going after is a little bit too tantalising for them to not go through with this. And I guess it would have been a little bit hypocritical had they just gone into the background at this stage and not cancelled the visa for the second time.
Yes, so I'm with you on that one. It is a bit of a surprise when I seen the news just there about an hour ago, but it just really says why on earth was the visa issued in the first place, you know? You have to wonder, they've been so strict with the rules the whole way through. There's people over there who haven't got home in years at this point. People can't go out were hoping to go out. All of these things that come into play, and a lot of angry people when they seen he first got the first visa. So yeah, it is surprising here in the news this morning because, as you said, I didn't know if they had the bottle either. But I definitely think it's the right thing to do.
We're going to have Jack Anderson with us after 8 o'clock this morning to go through what the legal proceedings might be. There's been a couple of different things that have come up over the last few days. The first thing that definitely struck me was the fact that Djokovic could now be banned from Australia for 3 years. So that is very much on the table at this point. He cannot. So the 133C3 clause that I mentioned earlier on, that includes a stipulation that if you have your visa cancelled, you cannot be granted another visa while offshore for the 3 years. I think that point is a little bit overplayed. I suspect that maybe next year, if he comes back and, gives the puppy dog eyes to the Australian government, I think he'll probably be fine. This is a guy who ultimately got his court proceedings rushed through the courts during the week to allow him to, what he thought at the time was to participate in the Australian Open. So I'd be interested to see if that 3-year thing would actually be upheld. I'm not sure if that's actually such a massive deal, because they say there are exceptions granted in exceptional circumstances, and certain circumstances I think is the exact phraseology. And I'd say that Novak Djokovic himself is an exceptional circumstance to all of this. The reports this morning, as you can imagine, are that the legal team are going to take immediate action. So the lawyers for Djokovic are going to seek a potential case fast-tracked by minimising the length of their submission. So this is going to play out in the courts, you'd imagine, over the course of this weekend. They're hoping to have the case heard by the end of the weekend and finalised soon, because he's playing early next week, obviously. The tennis actually starts on Monday. So the case would actually go back to the Federal Circuit Court Judge Anthony Kelly. Anthony Kelly is the guy who essentially overturned the decision earlier in the week for a hearing, but then he may actually refer it to the Federal Court. That's different to the Federal Circuit Court, I think. I'm trying to get on top of the Australian court system here on the fly this morning, Aisling. Basically, This weekend is going to be pretty dramatic.
Yeah, and what sort of state will he be in to play if that was the case? If something happened from that, a lot has gone on in the last weeks, so I don't know what state he'll be in to play if that did come about. But yeah, it's just such a saga, the whole thing, and yeah, it remains to be seen what will happen. But it's very interesting, and we will see over the weekend what comes about it.
Yeah, for sure. The reaction from the Djokovic family this morning is going to be very interesting. I'm sure that there is a room in Belgrade being assembled for the world's media to descend on this morning. We're going to see Novak Djokovic's brother potentially abruptly ending press conferences this morning. We're going to see his father unleash a new tirade. Like what I imagine right now is Novak Djokovic's dad just thinking to himself, who can I compare my son to at this point? Because he's already gone to a certain level that he can't get above. Like he's gone Spartacus. He described him as water. And God, wasn't it? He described him as God. I think once you go to God, I think it's very, very hard to get to a level above that. I think his mother showed a few, she alleged that he was tortured as well. Maybe that was just kind of lost in translation with the phraseology. Yeah. But it's going to be a fun afternoon.
I think that press conference did actually more damage than good. You know, if that's where a lot of the questions are really asked about when he had contracted COVID and if he isolated and all of those things. And it did a lot more damage than good in my view. If I was Djokovic looking at that, you know, I don't think they had their stories straight. They didn't really know. They were sort of whispering to each other, and it was all a bit of a mess. So, yeah, the whole thing is mad to watch on.
Yeah, like I mean that's. I think you're probably right. That's really interesting to see what will the importance of that press conference be over the course of this weekend. Maybe it comes to nothing. What I think will be very interesting is what will the importance of Novak Djokovic's Instagram post. What was it? Was it yesterday, the day before? What importance that will have if they go back to the courts this weekend, and the administrative mistake that Djokovic said his agent made, will that be important when they go to court this weekend? The error of judgment by not isolating after he tested positive for COVID on 16th of December, will that be an important part? You'd suspect not. You'd suspect that that's actually more of a moral question. What does that actually have to do with the Australian authorities, given the dates of when he actually flew into the country? But there are still enough reasons to suggest here that Novak Djokovic taking to Instagram a couple of days ago was a fairly unwise thing to do. You would think that he consulted his legal team before posting on Instagram a few days ago. But then again, the story is so mad that you wouldn't rule anything out. Maybe Novak Djokovic and his agent just acted in unison here and maybe didn't get legal advice because that could be an important factor going into this weekend. Like when we look through some of the reaction within Australia this morning, the former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has taken to Twitter saying, "What a surprise, Morrison's government cancels Djokovic's visa to win the weekend media cycle, showing us all how hairy-chested he is. Why on earth did they issue the visa in the first place?" One big political distraction from empty shelves and the national shortage of boosters, he says. So I think that this has been well publicised over the last little while. That if we rewind a week, I think maybe the government of Australia looked to be in control of this thing, that the people were like, good on you, you know, you've played a blinder here. But the more things have come out this week, Aisling, I really felt that the international mood had shifted, maybe not entirely in favour of Novak Djokovic, but a little bit more away from the government side of things. And there will be a lot of sympathy for Novak Djokovic, I suspect, more so than last week, if he is packing his bags in 48 hours' time and on his way back to Europe.
Yeah, well, he has a massive fan base, and that's what we've seen. You know, we've seen the scenes of him getting into the car on the way out of the detention hotel or centre, wherever he was, and they were up against the car, and there was hundreds of them, and the pepper spray and everything that was going on. So he has a really big fan base, so they're always going to get behind him. But I think majority, a lot of Australians and just the people looking in at it from the outside looking in, really just can't see how he was issued a visa in the first place. Like it's incomprehensible really to see what a lot of Australians and immigrants that are living there have gone through at the moment, to then see this man coming in and picking up this visa as easy as it all happened. So yeah, I think there'll definitely be support because he has a massive fan base. You know, the best tennis player in the world. He's a huge fan base, but yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people in support of what the Australian government is doing too. And
I think as well that one of the big factors in the support was just the optics of Novak Djokovic being put into the detention hotel, into the Melbourne Park Hotel. And I think it sparked a whole conversation about Australia's immigration policy. And sure, I mean, Novak Djokovic may have may not care one bit about that, but almost accidentally he's become a little bit of an emblem for those who want to talk about those things in Australia, the people who have protested outside that hotel and want there to be more noise around that story. In an accidental way, Novak Djokovic has given them that noise, whether or not they agree with his stance on vaccines. What is interesting then, I'm just taking this from the Guardian live blog this morning. A former Deputy Secretary of the Department of Immigration, Abdul Rizvi, was on ABC apparently, and he thinks that Djokovic will be taken into the detention again now. So his visa's been cancelled, so he'll go back to the same detention hotel that he was at previously, says Rizvi. I assume his lawyers, he says, will now seek judicial review of that decision, and the court will need to consider whatever application Djokovic's lawyers make. I presume the applications will be for Novak Djokovic to be released in some way, probably directing the minister to release Mr Djokovic on a bridging visa to allow him to play in the Australian Open. The judge will consider that and make a decision. So a bridging visa is potentially the last open door here for Novak Djokovic to get in. Like it is the one thing that could potentially hold us back from Djokovic's standpoint is that the 3-year situation that can be granted on compassionate grounds. Will there be a lot of compassion left for him if he fights this thing through the courts next week or this weekend? I'm not sure. We'll see. We're kind of in the realms of trying to get into the minds of Novak Djokovic's team here, which, as we know, is probably not the easiest task because the story is just so wild at the moment, and we will keep you up to speed as the morning progresses. Interesting comment in here from Patrick, who's been watching. As a man living in Western Australia, this is absolutely the correct decision. I haven't been able to get home since 2019. A heavy majority in this country supports this decision, which is interesting to still hear that, Aisling, because as I said there, I thought that things had potentially been changing. And Connell says, this really affects Novak Djokovic's legacy as he's banned for 3 years now. So possibly, actually, what my view has been affected by is maybe the noisy minority, the people on the streets, even just judging on social media about how this thing had changed. Potentially, the Australian public are still steadfast in their opposition of Novak Djokovic actually being in the country.
Yeah, this is it. Like I'm the same. I've seen all of the footage, the video footage of the fans. But I think overall there's really a lot of people that would really be against this. I've read a lot of articles on people that have just not been able to get home for years, and it's very tough to watch on. If you're in that situation, or if you have family there, to watch on and see someone being able to enter as easily as we thought at the start he was going to be able to do. It's very difficult, very difficult. One rule for one person because he's the best tennis player in the world, So, no, I definitely think at the moment, right decision. And I think a majority of Australians, I think, would be definitely in favour of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will have developments, I think it's fair to say, over the course of the next couple of hours, and we'll keep you up to speed here on OTB AM. As I say, Professor Jack Anderson will be with us in the 8 to 9 hour to chat to us about what Novak Djokovic's team can reasonably expect over the course of the next 48 hours. I mean, we've buried the lead here, Aisling. Pesky Novak Djokovic has come on in to ruin your thunder, to steal your thunder this morning and actually dissuade us from talking about the big sporting story of the weekend. It is, of course, the Ulster Club football final, senior club football final between Derry Donnelly Harps and Kilcoo. For people who aren't fully aware, Kilcoo essentially your neighbours?
They are at the minute, yeah. So I'm living up in Drumgath in County Down. So it's about 5 minutes out the road from Kilcoo. So now my boyfriend is from Down, so I've been up and down here, up and down the road. So I've often been into Kilcoo, and over the years I know a lot of the lads in that. So just to give people, I suppose, a little bit of a description or for context of what it's like. So it's basically a small village of about 400 people or so in the population of Kilcoo. The surrounding areas have around maybe 2,000, but actually Kilcoo now will be about 400 people. One shop, a church, two pubs, and very much you'd blink and you'd miss it sort of place. So I was out there yesterday. I actually took a few videos and stuff. I sent them into the lads here. Just one of the signs is hilarious. On the way out of Kilcoo, they have a sign saying, "County Down by birth, Kilcoo by the grace of God." And I think that sums up exactly, if you meet any Kilcoo people, exactly what they're like and what Kilcoo means to them. So for them, the Down Championship is very, very competitive. it's seriously competitive. Like, they basically all of their games they won by maybe 2 or 3 points. Kerryduff in the quarter-final, they beat them in extra time by a point. Ballyholland, they won the semi-final by 2 points, and then the final by 2 points to Byrne. So really, really tough to actually get out of there in the first place. And they have really dominated it over the last number of years. From 2012 to 2017, they've won. 2018, they lost. Then they won again 2019, 2020, and 21. So yeah, they're very much dominating the Down Championship. And then they won Ulster for the first time in 2019.
We just had on screen there an image there. Due to requests, sales for the kids' club bed covers will remain open. They are available to order via this link if anyone wishes to order. So this is a thing. I mean, the kids have Kilcoo bed covers.
Yeah, that is so funny. For me, when I asked a few people, because I seen it popping up on Facebook, and it's duvets, basically order your duvets. I was like, that is like what we would have did growing up. If you have your soccer team like Celtic or Man United or Liverpool, whoever your team was growing up, you would maybe have them. Or I remember, I think I had Celtic curtains or, something like that. But actually, Kilcoo kids growing up, they have Kilcoo bed covers. Their Man United is Kilcoo. So I've never heard that before. Now, maybe I know people might text in and let us know, but I've never heard that you actually can get bed covers for your club. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so they're a really tight-knit club. I think we've talked about before the Brannigan brothers. There's 5 Brannigan brothers who are also first cousins with the 3 Johnson brothers who play up front along with Caelan Doherty. So that's 9 of the starting 15 who are actually first cousins. So that is something else. And I think overall there's about 5 to 6 groups of brothers across the whole squad that have just been together from underage the whole way up. So it's quite a unique story.
It really is, especially at senior club level, Aisling. Like I'm trying to think. Like we always get these incredible stories of families maybe playing against each other, or maybe 2 households that make up the backbone of a team that goes all the way in the junior club championship or the intermediate club championship. But this is a team that people are predicting are going to win the entire thing, that people see as possibly in 2022 the best club team in Ireland.
This is it, and that's why it's such a lovely story, because they are all homegrown and they've grown together through the underage, and they've all went to the same primary school and they came to the ranks together. Like prior to 2009 was the first time, a recent time that they won the championship. Prior to that, it was 1937. So you can really see that they are a group of lads who've really stuck together, with adding underage as they go through the ranks. But yeah, it's a really nice story. And just to mention as well, Derry Connolly, the Fermanagh champions, they have somewhat a little bit of a similar story, just to give them a mention as well today. Like they have a population of about 700 people as well. This year they won their 6th Fermanagh title in 7 years. Now they know Kilcoo. They met them in the Ulster quarter final in 2019. Kilcoo bet them by 2 points that day. And they again have a lot of brothers on the team. So they have the Jones brothers, the McGullion brothers, the McGovern brothers. Very much on Sunday, it's very much a brotherly affair. So I think we're in for a good Ulster final. Absolutely.
It's a 3:45 throw-in on Sunday. Derry Connolly Harps against Kilcoo at the Athletic Grounds. Aisling, you're going to have live updates on Off the Ball throughout the day on Sunday, so it should be an absolute cracker. Can't wait for that. And then the other club game on Sunday is going to be Austin Stacks against St Finbars and Munster. That's a 1:45 throw-in in that one. It is 7:48. You're with us here on OTB AM, which is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Let's just tell you what's coming up over the course of the next little while. We're going to have Rowan McCarthy with us in a few minutes' time. He is the Irishman in Perth who hit an albatross and a hole-in-one in the same round, something that Tiger Woods had never even achieved. We'll get his take and his experience of that in just a few minutes' time. Shane Keegan will be reacting to Liverpool against Arsenal last night and looking ahead to the weekend's Premier League from 8:10. Colm Boohig will be chatting Novak Djokovic at around 8:30. We'll also have Jack Anderson on that slot. The sports page is coming your way, and then into Alan Quinlan at 10:09. It is a big weekend for the Irish provinces. Hopefully all 4 games from their perspective goes ahead in the Heineken Champions Cups. We'll preview them with Alan Quinlan. The crappy quiz is coming your way at 9:10, and then JP's goodbye from 9:30. The big goodbye to JP Gilburn, the evening producer. So we'll be playing that out if you missed it, including one Kevin Kilban singing his heart out for his favourite member of Team OTB. Aisling, we mentioned that you're covering the big game in Ulster on Sunday. You've had a busy all week of it, not least through the rugby press conferences, but also chatting to one of, I think, Ireland's favourite football stars at the moment.
Yes, I have. Benny, it was amazing to speak to him. I spoke to him on Wednesday and we had a lovely chat, and it was just so lovely to hear how excited he is to play for Ireland, his hopes, his aspirations. He wants to go the whole way, thinks they can top the group. Really, really exciting young lad, and just really looking forward to his football. He's playing with Rotherham in the Division 1. So yeah, it was a really nice story, and just how he hopes to push on and his club aspirations. So yeah, it was a really good chat.
Like, I mean, I think that this guy, I think I was kind of looking back on it, like I kind of ironically tweeted when he made his debut off the bench, and he was just looked sensational for Ireland for, I can't remember how many minutes he got that first day, and thinking this guy's going to be the Irish player of 2021. As it turned out, he wasn't too far away from actually being Ireland's best player in 2021. It was just that spark at the start that we thought might have just been a flash in the pan that actually turned into something really sustainable. Like, I'm really excited to see this guy across 2022. I think he's just added such an energy to that attack, and not that he's come out of nowhere, but I just think that there's been such a focus on some of the more notable underage talents, like of Adam Ida and Troy Parrott and Aaron Connolly, that this guy has kind of come out of the left fields to be possibly Ireland's best attacker right now. If you had to pick your team right now, he's possibly Ireland's best attacker outside of Callum Robinson, obviously.
Yeah, and I think he's really important because he's adaptable too. With Rotherham, he was sort of playing different positions because he can slot him in anywhere because he is that talented. And as you said, with the Ireland team, he was shocked, he said, to get the call up. He said he was at home, sitting at home. He got the call, I think it was 7 a.m. He was in bed and he seen his phone ringing and he couldn't believe it. And he basically didn't have his boots or anything. He had to go get his boots, and then he went straight to Spain to get into camp, and he just said he just wanted to hit the ground running. And he was shocked, I suppose, because he had got such a bad injury and he was recovering from the injury, and then he'd only come off the bench so many times in club. So he didn't, I suppose, think that he'd maybe done enough. But I suppose Stephen Kenny knew him from the underage, and that's, I think, a great thing about Stephen Kenny, that he knows these young lads, and that's why he's seen their talent before and he can bring them along. So I think that's a really positive side of what we've seen in Irish football in the last year. So yeah, really excited about Benny, and what a lovely lad. I know he's some clips in that play as well, but he's definitely one to watch out for sure.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear a bit of Chidozie Benny then. Here he is on the potential he sees in this Irish group.
I know this is quite ambitious of me, but we have 4 games in 10 days. I do believe that we have what it takes to finish top of the group. I think with the momentum of finishing the last campaign, we're going to take that with us. And maybe I believe in the team more than anyone else, but I do believe that we have what it takes to finish top of the group, and that's what my ambitions are. To go out and beat Scotland, beat all these teams, and finish in the group and qualify.
And to get the call up from Stephen Kenny, can you just tell us a little bit about getting that call and how it was for you and your family?
Well, firstly, a week before the squad was going to be announced, I heard rumours that he might have me in his plans. It was June for the camp. And we finished the season and I was home. Actually, it was about 7 a.m. in bed. I was home and I got a phone call from Steve Kenny, and I was kind of nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And he said, Chidozie, I'm looking to take you in the camp in Spain. And, I kind of went numb because, you don't know what to say. I didn't have my boots with me because I didn't expect me to be called. So the next day, and I flew back to UK to get my boots and get myself ready. And it was overwhelming, honestly. My family were very happy for me. Before I could even finish a sentence, my flight was booked. My brother booked my flight. So they were all chuffed for me. And I was, as I said to you, I was quite shocked. I played only 11 championship games, a lot off the bench. So to get that recognition, in the short games I've played, it was honestly, it was amazing. And
just when you say you had to go back and get your boots, would you be ever able to buy like a new pair, or you had to go get the ones you're playing in?
I needed to get the one. I didn't want to get a new pair and go to Spain and, you had to wear them in. I was happy with the ones I was wearing, and I was determined I get the stuff I'm used to training each and every day. So I needed to be ready. I bought a new set of boots, but I needed my original ones to make sure I don't waste a day. I don't waste any day, trying to wear in boots. I'm straight in and, straight in the mix.
Yeah, brilliant stuff there from Chidozie Ogbene. What I really like, obviously the boot story is great, and I was wondering that as well about, do you actually have to go home to pick them up? And in fairness, wearing them in does make sense. But at the top of that, talking openly about the fact that, we want to win our Nations League group, and it's something that Stephen Kenny said post-match in one of the games last year, that the ambition is to finish first in the Nations League. And while at the time that might have seemed like a doable thing, draw pending, I think it's interesting that Ogbene is maintaining that line after the draw has been made, because Ireland have got a tough draw. It's really not, there's no gimmies in that group, nor that there is in any League B division, I guess, but there's just this confidence now to actually say, listen, the ambition is obviously to finish top of this thing, and make no bones about the fact that their ambition and their ceiling, that in their opinion, is pretty high.
This is it, and the momentum that they came off, they're going off that, and that's brilliant to see. And I think we missed that in Irish football for so long. There was so much talk all the time, and I'm sure the players, Stephen Kenny, there was so much noise around them, and then they started to get the wins, and they were playing really good style of football, which was so exciting to watch. And Ogbene was somebody that really had a massive part to play. The way he plays is really slick and different, to what we've seen in Irish football in recent years. So yeah, it was nice to see all of that. And yeah, he's dead right to have ambition and aspirations to want to go on top of the group. He mentioned Scotland. Scotland's a very strong squad in there too. So, it's going to be tough for them. But I think you need to have that positive attitude. And when the clip went up online, you could really see what people reacting to it. And they were like, this is so good to see such positivity around Irish football, and how much he wants to go out and play for his country and wants to win and all of those things. And I think other people feed off that too in the team. So yeah, I think he's dead right, and it was so lovely to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing we just wanted to touch on, Aisling, before we go, actually we can go down under, I think. Aisling, we'll leave that thought there. We'll come back to the rugby a little bit later on, because we want to go to Australia for a story that doesn't involve Novak Djokovic at 7:57 on this Friday morning, because we have Rowan McCarthy on the line. Rowan, good evening to you. How does it feel to have your thunder stolen by Novak Djokovic so rudely this morning?
Oh, not too bad. I think I'm having more fun than him, to be honest. It's been a crazy week, and poor fella's been having a tough all the time, but I'm still enjoying myself now.
For anybody who missed this, Rowan McCarthy is from Douglas in County Cork. He was playing at a Perth Network golf event, and he managed to clock up a hole-in-one and an albatross in the same round. I've seen you quoted, Rowan, as saying there's a 72 billion to 1 chance of this happening.
A few sources tell me two different numbers, so I think that's one of them. There's two different answers, but yeah, quite a big number, and led to believe. So.
Yeah, so talk us through the round. Was it a good round, and this was just the fruits of you being amazing, or was it a dodgy round, and these were two oases of genius in the middle of it? Oh, we appear to have some trouble with Rowan's line. We're trying to establish him that phone line is not great all the way down to Perth this evening there. So we'll try and get him back a little bit later on. Aisling, just to go back to your week, pretty busy week between Kilcoo and their hype ahead of Sunday, and of course Chidozie Ogbene. You're also covering the rugby just to keep you on your toes. You were at the Van Gran press conference, I think, and I think it's fair to say that this is the moment that Van Gran shed most light on his decision to go to Bath.
Yeah, big time. I just wanted to ask him, I suppose, after the weekend, we seen his post-match, actually it was before the match, his interview, and he sort of just, I suppose, pushed the question off to say, look, it's not about that now, it's about the game, fair enough. But afterwards, I suppose, when I talked to him this week, I just wanted to ask him, just for the fans, a lot of people are crying out to know, how he feels. Is he happy there? Is he going to put everything into it while he is staying on until the end of the season? And yeah, he just basically said that, everyone knows his heart. He's loved every minute of being there. He's put everything into it, his heart and soul into it. He's going to continue to do his very best. And I suppose he doesn't want the next 6 months just to be about him. And he wants to just continue to do his best until the day he leaves, and that he's a Munster man. His daughter was born there, and he'll always will refer to himself as a Munster man. So yeah, there was strong words there from him, and I think he basically was just saying, like, enough of this is the vibe I was getting. on the press conference. Enough of this now, let's concentrate on the games ahead. So yeah, I suppose we'll have to wait and see what sort of performances they put in.
Do you think that has an impact, the fact that the head coach has not his eyes on a different job, but has literally signed up for a different job? Because Brian O'Driscoll is making that point this week, that there's surely at least a small percentage of his thought process going into planning ahead for next season for Bath. It may not be this week when he's planning ahead for a game for Munster in the Heineken Champions Cup, but over the course of the next few months there are surely conversations happening between himself and the powers that be at Bath to get a bit of forward planning done.
Exactly, like it's a professional setup. It's they're going to have those conversations in order to get things set up and ready to go for when he does step in there. So there's no doubt he's having these conversations. So I suppose for the players and the team, they're probably thinking, his head elsewhere at times. I think, I definitely think if you were in the camp, you will be thinking that way. It's hard to know. Like I was talking to a few of the players also, and they just basically said that I don't hear any of the noise. I was talking to Gavin Coombs, and he just sort of said, no, I don't hear any of the noise. He said it was the happiest camp he's been involved with, which was in the 5 years that he's been there. So that was a strong statement, I thought. And he said they're very much just concentrating on the next game, and that's the way they're looking at it. But I think it's only natural to sort of be wondering if he is moving on. You're thinking, is his head fully in the game here? And I think you're right, and I definitely think he's going to be planning ahead, because that's what you have to do.
Let's try and go back to Perth. Rowan McCarthy, you there?
Yeah.
How are you getting on? I think.
Hello.
How are you? You can hear me there, okay? Can you?
I sure can.
Good stuff. Just a few gremlins in the system this morning trying to chat to you. I was asking you before we lost you just about the round that saw you actually notch the albatross and the hole-in-one. Was it a good round?
Was a bit shaky. Two just go out there and not expect much from the round. Just go out there and just expect to have a bit of fun and have a couple of drinks afterwards. And that's not probably what we do. So yeah, the front nine was pretty average. A few double bogeys, a couple of pars, nothing spectacular. And then I moved on to the back nine. I think on the 11th got a triple bogey. The 12th managed to get the hole-in-one, which is just absolutely amazing. I thought the day was over at that, but it clearly wasn't. We moved on to the 13th hole. I think I got a double bogey on that one, followed by a triple bogey. My head wasn't in the game after I got the hole-in-one, because it was just the most spectacular feeling ever, and phone was popping off the wall, everyone ringing me, texting me, and absolutely insane. So yeah, I just wanted to get off the course and just go celebrate. Really was all I was thinking.
Yeah.
Following on from that, we went on to the 15th hole then. And it was, I don't know, it just felt like the normal day. Just hit a decent drive down the fairway, landed in a reasonably good spot. It was about 185 metres out, and hit a 5-iron, and it just went straight down. It was the fairway was sort of on a downhill slope. Hit the bank and just literally rolled probably about 20 metres. It was like a little bank down, and it just rolled straight up towards the flag and just dropped. We didn't see it because there was quite a big distance to it until we went down and saw it in the bottom of the hole. And Jesus, the celebration and the noises that were coming from our group were absolutely insane. They were heard across the golf course.
I can imagine. You're playing off 20, I think, Rowan. This is kind of a ball from the blue. Is this the start of the good times for Rowan McCarthy, the golfer?
Oh man, the good times are always rolling. Even if you're playing bad, good golf or bad golf, you just keep the head up and keep driving on. It's all about having a bit of fun, really. Don't take it too seriously.
What's next for you? What's coming up, and how are you going to utilise this fame, this newfound fame in Australia?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I did call out Tiger Woods there to hit me up. He wants a few lessons and stuff, but he was still waiting on a response back from him. So nothing there. So other than that, really, obviously there's been quite a lot of media, like impressing stuff and released all over the world. Literally the last week has probably been the craziest week of my life. I've just been interview after interview, been on live talk shows, golfing, like US golfing channels. I've done doing filming for all the national news here and all the papers. And so it's just been non-stop the last week. So
Rowan, you're doing everything that
when most of the media raises their clothes, you know. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of a break. But,
you're doing everything that a professional.
The fact it gathered so much momentum, I suppose. I have created a new Instagram following, a new page, and so it's called Shank Magic, which is really just a page that's sort of inspired by the 5 wildest holes in golf history, we like to call it. So it's really just putting just some sort of humour, and just going to be putting up videos and stuff on a frequent basis, just sort of putting fun and banter into the game. That there's a bit of hope for everyone that don't take it too seriously, and you know every golfer has their day, you know. So I just keep plugging away, you know.
Well, listen, Rowan, enjoy the success. Hopefully Tiger gets back to you and responds to you calling him out over the next little while. Have a good weekend, and thanks a million for taking the call.
All good. Cheers. Thanks very much. Have a good one.
Rowan McCarthy there, the man from Douglas who got the 72 billion to 1 shot on a course in Western Australia, an albatross and a hole-in-one in that round. We're going to move on to the papers at 6:08 this morning. You're with us here on OTB AM, which is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Can we have a look at otbsports.com first this morning? No, we'll come back to that later. Just to run through some of the sports pages, the Irish Examiner leads with Waiting and Wondering, Ronan O'Gara on why Munster are a hard watch at the moment. You've got the Irish Independent saying United face nightmare unless mentality improves. That's Cristiano Ronaldo's comments. You've also got the Herald, Ronaldo attitude is our problem. That is an interview that's made a few waves, I think, over the last few hours. Cristiano Ronaldo speaking to Sky Sports. At the back page of The Guardian, MPs races morning, cricket told to reform or face cuts, and also reaction to Liverpool 0, Arsenal 0. The Ronaldo story leading the way on the London Times, and that's the same story on the Daily Telegraph, and also on the back of the Irish Daily Mail. Ronaldo's on the warpath. He complains Manchester United stars don't do enough gym work, and a few other complaints as well. Who's a naughty boy is the back of the Irish Daily Star. Xhaka off, but cop failed to breach Gunner's rearguard. At the back of the Mirror is Ronaldo. The kids really aren't all right. And the back of the Irish Sun is Ronning scared. Youngsters are intimidated by superstar. We should also this morning touch on some of the front pages, because it's been an unbelievably grim couple of days, I think it's fair to say. The Aisling Murphy story dominating, as you can imagine, the front pages. Just to give you just a very brief flavour of what's on the front, the Irish Examiner has a particularly impactful front page. Aisling should have been safe. She should have made it home. We say their names aloud: Sarah Everard, Sabina Nessa, Aisling Murphy. I wonder which of us will be next. That's Louise O'Neill, and her comment is published on the front of the Irish Examiner this morning. All of the newspapers really leading with this story this morning. A lot of news updates on it. The front of the Irish Independent there. Aisling was our youngest, a little angel. She was our rock. Parents pay tribute to a marvellous musician and great teacher who crammed so much into her short life. And we don't need this story to be literally in the sports pages for us to talk about it, obviously, but it is literally in the sports pages this morning. And there's a really powerful piece actually in the Irish Times written by Lisa Fallon, a really brave piece. The headline: he told me he would have to kill me because I had seen his face. And she tells a story of an unbelievably grim moment for her in 1995 when, walking home from a night out, she was attacked by a man who she says I didn't know. He held me by the hair in his car, so I couldn't get away, and drove to a field. Eventually I managed to get away and ran, but he caught me. When he had me back in the car, he told me he would have to kill me because I'd seen his face. I begged him to let me go and promised not to tell anyone. The story goes on. It's absolutely worth picking up a copy of the Irish Times this morning to read it. Talks about the people who knew who he was and who had done nothing, who had said nothing. During the police questioning, I was asked about wearing a dress. It was a very moderate dress. It was years before I wore one again. Longer still, every time I sat in a room, I had to be able to see where the door was, so I had to see a way out. I couldn't go to a hairdresser because I couldn't bear anyone touching my hair. I was just walking home. Aisling was just going for a run. So that's Lisa Fallon in the Irish Times this morning. It is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of some of the writing across the pages, across all the different sections this morning. Aisling, this is such an unspeakably sad story and an unbelievably triggering one, I suspect, for women over the last couple of days.
Yeah, Owen, just when you're saying that there, I literally have goosebumps, a sick feeling in my stomach. It's just utterly heartbreaking, shocking, just extremely scary that something like this has happened to a 23-year-old girl, Aisling Murphy, who went for a run at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. My heart is broken for her family, her friends, her colleagues, her first-class students, just young kids who I'm sure are extremely confused and afraid about what has happened. Like, she did everything you're supposed to do. She went out during the day in daylight in an area where people would be, were out walking, would see her, all of those things. Because I think it's important to mention that's the way women think. We think about where we go walking or running. We think about the area we're going to, if we'll be safe there, if it's well lit up. All of these things, I think, go through your mind before you go out. Like if on a night out, we'll plan how to get home, or we'd say to each other, don't get a taxi alone, text me when you get in, all of these things. And it made me think, women constantly live in fear. For me, it's the problem isn't women, it's men's behaviour that needs to change. And I think it's important to have conversations around that. If we can, changing how they act. You often see other men who will play up to other men, having a laugh with their mates, shouting over at a girl as she walks or runs by, or shouting out of a car and just thinking it's a bit of fun. But to me, that's the problem, that they don't see these things as harassment. Men will probably just say she lacks a sense of humour, but I think a way that men can help is definitely by pulling up with their men and sort of having these conversations and saying here, look, that's not on, you can't be going on like that. And I just feel like now it's going to have a massive effect on women psychologically. I heard a woman yesterday saying she couldn't bring herself to go for her daily walk because of the fear of it. Imagine this is how women feel in Ireland in 2022. It's just so wrong.
Oh, 100% agree with you. And from the male perspective, there is 100% a conversation that needs to happen. And for anybody who listened to the show last night, there was a brilliant discussion on with Nathan between Orla Muldoon and Anya Kerr and Malachy Clerk, and he had a brilliant panel discussion in the 8 o'clock hour last night, and they really did kind of touch on that nonsense notion of not all men. And if one of your reflexes after a tragedy like that is to go not all men, then there seriously is something wrong, isn't there? And as I say, I would point you to that piece for why you would get if you want a good, educated review of why this is wrong. Somebody far more intelligent than me, people far more intelligent than me will give you that in that piece last night. But just as a reflex is the thing that I can't get my head around, is that this thing happened within the previous 36 hours, and you have people rushing to the defence of their gender on social media yesterday, which is incredible timing, Aisling, when you think about it. You've just heard the news of a horrifying act where another woman is going about her life normally and she ends up being a victim, and your first reaction is to rush to the defence of your gender. There's a number of different words you could use to describe that sort of thing. Selfish is maybe one of the more benign words I would use to describe that thing, that you're seeing a level of terror out there amongst women and you're on social media rushing to the defence of yourself and your gender, which I find extraordinary. If you've got that energy and that pent up sort of angst about something, at least use that energy to channel it into, I don't know, getting in touch with your sisters or your women friends to see if they're all right, to see if their emotions after reading that story are okay and how they're feeling, rather than constantly hopping to the defence of men, because that is something that's going to get us nowhere, I feel, in this conversation.
Yeah, this is it. For me, when I see those comments, they can't understand. They can't understand. They have to educate themselves. It really is about opening up that conversation to men and boys in our society, that women have this fear, like they couldn't understand if you come out with those comments. You really couldn't. So I think the only thing is to maybe take away from this is to have those conversations, like you said, and even men having conversations with men to understand, what do you think of it all? Like a lot of people that I was speaking to in the last day said that they're sort of embarrassed and they don't know how to sort of join the conversation because they're male. And I said, that's the reason you should join the conversation, and to better yourself and to know more. It's okay to want to learn and to have a voice about it all, but it can't be on women anymore. Like, the questions can't be just like you read that article there. Why did you wear that? Why did you walk home alone? Why did you walk in that area? It's not women that are the problem. Things need to change. And I really hope, we hear some news on this, because obviously this morning we woke up to the news that there's nobody in custody at the minute. So there's a lot of fear out there. A lot of fear for women that don't want to go out on a run today, don't want to go out for a walk, don't want to go out and do these normal things that you should be able to do. But a lot of people are afraid to do.
And you mentioned having a conversation there. Like, half of having a conversation is listening. And if your first reflex is to go into the defensive, then maybe just consider potentially just shutting up for a moment and listening to what the other side have to say, or just saying nothing for a moment, even just for a couple of days, just listening to what people have to say. And unfortunately, over the past couple of years, there have been ample opportunity for us all to listen, for people who have had unbelievably grim stories to tell, and there have been so many opportunities for us to just shut up and listen. Unfortunately, this week is another one of those opportunities. If you haven't taken that opportunity in your life before, this is an opportunity to just shut up and listen, and don't run to the defensive immediately and get on Twitter and tweet "not all men" or whatever sort of variation it is of that. But that's worth checking out in the Irish Times this morning. It is really awful to read some of the stuff in the papers this morning, but there is coverage, as you can imagine, extensively across both sports sections and news sections and besides as well. It is 16 minutes past 8 on this Friday morning. You're with us here on OTB AM. We're going to take a quick break and we're talking football next.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Off the ball's the best, number one.
It's the GOAT of sports apps.
Talk about the greatest of all time. Nathan, Big Joe. Big Joe's the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. We know it. Every single time. Yes.
It's tough going. It's tough for my ego. I'm going to say I'm the Djokovic of this scenario.
I love it.
This is OTB Sports Radio. Download the OTB Sports app now.
Have you subscribed to the OTB Football Podcast? If not, here's some of what you've missed over the last week.
You look at the game last night and you think to yourself, this Manchester City team are going to be the first Premier League team to score 10 goals in a match. It is going to happen. We are going to reach that high water mark.
He flicks it over the midfield player's head and then swivels on it and hits it with his foot in the corner, and we were all kind of stood there going, did he actually just do that?
We just put a picture of it up there, and you're in the corner of the screen watching it all unfold. Not closing them down either, I'd say, but there you go.
Subscribe now to the OTB Football Podcast stream wherever you get your podcasts, and download the OTB Sports app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Welcome back. 18 minutes past 8 on this Friday morning. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with your new and improved razors. I'd like to say Shane Keegan is with us to chat a bit of football. Shane, how are you getting on?
Owen Aisling, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. Will we start with Liverpool Arsenal last night? Like, what's the biggest theme from last night when you're looking at it? Is it, God, Liverpool without Mo Salah, without Sadio Mane, they really are a shadow of their usual selves? Or is it, do you know what, Arsenal without Granit Xhaka on the pitch can show a bit of grit and they're starting to show a bit of stomach for the fight?
Yeah, you probably nailed the two of them. Excuse me, you probably named the two of them there, Owen, to be fair. I suppose you look at the Liverpool side of things and, I mean, they really, really were very, very poor. I mean, that Minamino chance at the very, very end was really the only thing you could remotely describe as a proper goal-scoring chance for them. So to do that against a 10-man Arsenal that was missing some significant players, not even a full-strength 10-man Arsenal, is definitely a worry for them. And I suppose the big thing for them on, and I was kind of interested sitting down to watch it last night. The problem they have is, there's very few teams you'd say this about. You take out the star man and, well, okay, who's the go-to man to kind of either score chances or create chances without Salah around? The star man is your right back. And the big problem I think they have at the moment, Owen, is his form has actually dropped off a cliff in the last few weeks. Really, really bad timing, because it's exactly the time that they needed him to step forward. And like, I think Trent is an absolutely fantastic footballer. I think he's brilliant. But I've seen a lot of Liverpool in the last couple of weeks, and he's been nowhere near the player that he had been up till this point in the season. And without him on top form and creating chances, and be it crosses or those passes, or look, we've all seen what he can do with the ball. Without him there creating, and with Salah gone, they're in a bit of trouble as to how the chances are going to come about.
That's interesting, because obviously Trent's struggles last season were very well publicised, and it seemed this year he'd come back angrier, and he'd come back and started the season in just unbelievable form. So is this dip in form the same sort of dip that he experienced last year in terms of the attributes that are letting him down, or are you noticing something different?
Yeah, I think both sides of his game have suffered in recent weeks. The same level of creativity that we had been seeing. I mean, like, his level of creativity up until, let's say, 3-4 games ago was absolutely off the charts. I mean, it's ridiculous. You normally talk about, defenders in their own category in terms of, well, this guy had the most assists for a defender, and it's way down the list behind attackers and midfielders. I mean, Trent is way out in front in the Premier League for most assists, full stop, which is quite ridiculous, really. But that same, both my eye test from watching him, and kind of the numbers when you look at assists, or even expected assists, that kind of stuff, if you dig down deeper, his numbers have dropped way off in that sense. And at the same time, Owen, it's probably, I would have been one of the ones now who would have been gritting my teeth when you had John Giles on a few weeks ago, and he was having a go at the defensive side of Trent's game. I thought Trent hadn't been showing up defensively this year. I thought he'd been doing an awful lot better. I don't know whether that's because Liverpool were holding on to the ball so well that teams couldn't exploit it, or whether it was just improving defensively. But again, in recent weeks, there's no doubt that teams have started to get at his particular area of the field. An awful lot of teams are starting to play with two up top, setting up maybe with a 5-3-2 formation and going after that space in behind his flank. And even when he has been in that space, he's been, I'm trying to think of a recent game where he got his timing of his offside trap wrong on about 3 consecutive times in the space of a half an hour. So yeah, as I say, he's look, I think he'll bounce back. I think he's a brilliant footballer, but just certainly from the creative side of things, the timing isn't great, because, as I say, as we saw it last night, not really sure where the creativity is going to come from that side with Salah not around,
Speaking of Salah, I guess prognosis from Jurgen Klopp was not to be worried, and he seemed fairly lighthearted about the whole contract situation when asked about it this week. Is there something deeper there, Shane, do you think? Do you think that that's a front for a deep concern that Liverpool may not actually be willing to, I guess, smash their own wage structure to give one of their best ever players the money he deserves?
Look, we're all commenting from the outside on, so we don't know, so you can't say with any certainty. But I personally would be amazed if it's not just hardball and it's not just negotiation tactics. I mean, essentially what it boils down to is, I think, the length of term of the contract. If Salah is pushing for 3, maybe even 4 years, I'm not 100% sure. I know he's certainly looking for at least 3. And Liverpool are saying, well, hold on, we're probably maybe only going to have 1, maximum 2 years of you left at this ridiculous peak level that we've got you at. I think they're just going to have to bite the bullet and accept the fact that they're going to have to pay for what they're getting at the moment for the next 3 years, for the sake of trying to keep it for the next year or 2. And look, if you're still paying him an astronomical wage in wage 3 and he's not quite at the same level, well, look, you're probably still up on the deal if he can keep to the level that he's at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying he'll be sitting over there hoping Liverpool struggle while he's away, but it'll certainly strengthen his claims for a stronger contract anyway, that's for sure.
On the other side of the coin then, last night, the Arsenal positives that you mentioned, I guess will give him a bit of a boost going into the North London derby on Sunday. The previous fixture at the start of the season was it was a shocking performance from Tottenham, really, Shane. I think it's fair to say, as much as Arsenal were good that day, and you suspect a lot of the build-up will be around Spurs going into Sunday. Conte, it seems, already trying to send out messages to the hierarchy that this squad is not good enough. Is that what he's trying to do, and do you think his messages will actually be listened to?
Yeah. I suppose just on Arsenal first on, the one thing that I was kind of most impressed with Arsenal last night was Mikel Arteta's decisiveness on the back of the sending off. He obviously felt he didn't have a like-for-like replacement for Xhaka when the sending off came around, and decided to change the whole system, which was a risky enough move. Essentially brought on an extra defender and decided to go 5-3-1. Which is there wouldn't be a whole lot of teams would adapt that shape when they find themselves down to 10 men, and it worked an absolute dream. For them. It did so well defensively, coughed up almost nothing, and still looked reasonably decent on the counter by having the wing backs there. It gave them some. I thought Saka was brilliant. He's just getting better and better and better. He really, really is. So I suppose fair play to Arteta first and foremost for the reaction to it. In terms of Saturday's game, I mean, it's mad. You've got two huge games this weekend on in Spurs against Arsenal and City against Chelsea. And essentially you've got four teams. If you ignore Chelsea's few decent results in the Cup, you've essentially got four teams coming into those two games all out of form. Like none of them are shooting the lights out. I mean, I'm a Spurs fan and the brother-in-law is an Arsenal fan, and we'd be kind of slagging each other to and fro and that kind of crack. And I don't think there's either of us sticking our necks out too far for the game, because I think neither of us was very, very confident in what we're seeing at the moment.
You don't think City are in form?
Well, City aren't in form, I don't think. Absolutely not. I mean, certainly if you look at the last three Premier League games, and this is the amazing thing about them, it just shows how ridiculously kind of good they are overall, because I watched them against Arsenal. I thought Arsenal certainly deserved something from the game. I didn't think City were fantastic at all, and they managed to win the game 2-1. I watched them against Brentford, really, really toiled and struggled, managed to get over the line 1-0. And I saw them against Leicester, in which they conceded 3 goals, which is most unlike them, and still managed to. So they've gone through a poor blip in form by their standards. I don't think it can be described as anything else. And they've come out the other side of it with 9 points from 9, which is just ridiculous, really.
Geez, Shane, I definitely would think from watching on at City, they play more and more like Barcelona. That sort of quick football, that pep tactic of 5 seconds to get the ball back, really exciting play. I wouldn't have said their form has dipped too much.
I'm talking very, very short term there, Aisling. I mean, if you look at City over the course of the season, I mean, it's just fantastic. It really, really is fantastic to watch it. But in a lot of senses, one, in the way that you've said, the poor opposition, they're just absolutely suffocated. On the rare occasion where you do have the ball, sure, City have probably all bar the two centre halves probably within striking distance of being able to close you down immediately. So they suffocate the life out of you in that respect. And while I say the Brentford game, I suppose I'm saying it was poor by their standards because they only won 1-0. At no stage, it was about as comfortable a 1-0 as you'll ever see. At no stage did they not look like they were going to win. I just think that brilliant form we'd seen August, September, October, November, I think that has, it's just disappeared that little bit. Arsenal definitely showed weaknesses in it. Leicester, as we say, scoring 3 times. I know City were well ahead at the time, but still, for a brief moment there before they kicked on again, it looked as though Leicester might be within striking distance. Look, as a body of work over the season, they're fantastic. I just think those 3 most recent league games, stumbled a little bit in terms of what we're usually used to see in terms of free-flowing football. But that's judging them off the highest of highest standards.
And if they win this game at the weekend, this is jumping ahead now, but if I was looking on, I would think the league is over. Well, what is your view?
Yeah, you'd have to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, all neutrals, I'm sure, will be shouting for Chelsea, who, as I say, the 3 recent cup games aside, hopefully that'll have given them a boost and might see them return to slightly better form. But their own league form, it's not so long ago. It's so disappointing, guys. I don't know if you feel the same, but have gone within the space of about 6 weeks to what we all believed was a proper 3-horse race to all of a sudden we're saying that the league is going to be done and dusted this weekend. It's depressing, really, so it is. And I mean, Chelsea's form kind of sums that up. I mean, Chelsea have won 2 of their last 7 league games. I mean, that's some collapse from a team that looked so good. And I mean, they're going through such kind of turmoil at the moment that Tuchel he's even gone away from the back 3 in 2 of those 3 cup games. He's lined out with a back 4. So he's obviously even questioning what's working best for Chelsea at the moment. It'll be really, really interesting to see whether he goes with the 3 centre halves that we're most used to, or whether he goes with this back 4 that he's rolled out in a couple of the games recently. But it's hard to see City still not getting the result and coming away, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really disappointing. It's so exciting at the start of the year, and then when you do look on and it's a 3-horse, as you said, and now looking like a 1-horse race, it is disappointing to see. And just mentioning on Chelsea, their form hasn't been that great in the late of the league. Like, they draw their last 2 home games. I think compared to when Tuchel first came in, there's definitely a shift, I felt, in the last few games.
Yeah. Look, I suppose Lukaku been back in the side obviously gives them something very, very different. It gives them that focal point they need. Now, he still hasn't really clicked compared to, he started well at the start of the year, Aisling, and I think we all thought, this is exactly what Chelsea required, and this man's going to go close to hitting 30 goals this year, and that's why Chelsea will be right there to the death. And again, that just doesn't really seem to have happened for him. Obviously, we had the situation with his comments and him not being happy with not being used enough or not being used in the right manner. I don't think that's still fully kind of fixed itself. I don't think he probably still feels he's been used in the best manner possible. But there's so much quality there that I do think Chelsea will take off again. I think they will hit a really, really strong run of form again, similar to what we've seen. Problem is how much ground they lose before they re-establish that form. I mean, you look at the quality in the middle of the field. I mean, you could definitely make an argument that Jorginho and Kante is, when they're together there, is the best centre midfield partnership in world club football, really. And anytime I see him play, I think Kovacic looks absolutely brilliant as well. I think he'd be nailed on starter in any other midfield, certainly in the Premier League in the world, if the 2 that he has weren't ahead of him. I love the 3 centre halves, so I do. They've kind of chopped and changed on the right, but Thiago Silva and Rudiger as the central and the left, I think, have been 2 of the outstanding centre halves. Chilwell's been a loss because Alonso hasn't hit the same levels that Chilwell was at earlier in the season. I think that's been a little bit part of it. So it has. But the big thing, Aisling, is they just seem to be struggling to get that right blend among the front 3. He can't decide, is Werner a 10 or is he a 9? Obviously, when Lukaku's in it, he's either 10 or he's dropping out. The only one who's really delivering on a consistent basis is Mason Mount. Havertz has shown it in fits and starts, but what they need this week is, whether they're going with the 4 or the 3, what they need all 11 players really, really clicking, getting back to the level that they were, and maybe then they can test City. And I suppose again, the big thing with City is they're not over reliant on any one player, are they? He seems to be able to stick 22 names into a hat and pull out whatever 11 I want, and it doesn't really matter. We're still going to be absolutely excellent, and I can play Gabriel Jesus out wide, or I can play him through the middle. I can play Foden from the left, or I can stick him as a false 9. It seems to almost not matter. Now, of course it does, the amount of work he's doing in the lead into each game and nailing down the intricacies of everything that we're seeing is a huge body of work, but that lack of an over-reliance on one player is a huge benefit for them.
That's the 12:30 kick-off tomorrow in the Premier League. Manchester City at home to Chelsea. At 5:30 then it is round 2 between Aston Villa and Manchester United. That game's on at Villa Park. Ronaldo's on the warpath, reads the back of the Irish Daily Mail this morning, Shane. He complains Manchester United stars don't do enough gym work, has concerns over their attitude, fears they are ignoring his advice. Just to give you a direct comment from the piece, a direct quote from the piece. Since Rangnick arrived, I think in some points we are better, but he needs time. It's not that easy to change the mentality of players and the way they play, the culture, the system like that. I believe that he's going to do a good job. The mentality of the players, there's some suggestion that he's alienating himself in that dressing room, Shane, but he probably has a point, doesn't he?
Jeez, he probably has a point, though, but it's very hard not to smirk and smile when you're reading those comments and you're looking at who they're coming from at the same time, isn't it? Look, he's right. He's 100% right. It's just I hope he has some sort of level of self-awareness that he realises that some would see him as very, very much part of the problem that he's talking about there. Look, there's no doubt everything he says is bang on. Watching from the outside, it absolutely does look like there's an attitude problem, lack of work rate, all the things that everybody has been saying recently. It's so obvious to everybody, really. It's just not a harmonious group. It's not a group that values hard work, and that I think they just expect things to come to them a little too easily. And if that doesn't happen instantly, you get the toys out of pram. Like I've never. Rashford not following up Mason Greenwood's shot the other night was just incredible, really, and just really, really looked like he was sulking that Greenwood hadn't played him the pass, when in truth Greenwood had been or Rashford had been in the exact same scenario in injury time in the first half and didn't square it to Greenwood either. So I don't know how he felt he could sulk over that situation. But Ronaldo's right, but yeah, just needs to have a little look in the mirror there himself, I would have thought.
He loved the idea of looking in the mirror though, Shane. That's the problem here. Shane, thanks a million. Good stuff this morning.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Shane Keegan there on the line, former Dundalk manager. Just to bring you up to speed then on what's been happening in Australia. Novak Djokovic has been asked to present himself for an interview with immigration officials tomorrow. The government are currently talking with his lawyers, and he will be staying out of detention until the interview and pending any legal action. So the Park Hotel Melbourne is not where Novak Djokovic will reside tonight. That information coming from Paul Sakal on Twitter, and that is developing over the next little while. So just a reminder, basically, Novak Djokovic has had his visa cancelled once again. His legal team have been informed of that. Alex Hawke, who is the immigration minister for Australia, announced it at around 10 to 7 this morning Irish time, and then Djokovic's legal team have been given the decision in writing. Just to give you a reminder of this statement, Alex Hawke said today, "I exercise my power under section 133C3 of the Migration Act to cancel the visa held by Mr. Novak Djokovic on health and good order grounds on the basis that it was in the public interest to do so." This decision followed orders by the Federal Circuit Court and Family Court on 10th January 22, quashing a prior cancellation decision on procedural fairness grounds. In making this decision, I carefully considered information provided to me by the Department of Home Affairs, the Australian Border Force and Mr. Djokovic. And the Morrison government is firmly committed to protecting Australia's borders, particularly in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. He finishes by saying, "I thank the officers of the Department of Home Affairs and the Australian Border Force who work every day to serve Australia's interests in increasingly challenging operational environments." And we can go live to Australia now this morning. Delighted to say Professor Jack Anderson is back with us. Good evening to you, Jack. How are you keeping?
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
This wasn't such a surprise, was it, from your point of view?
No, it wasn't a surprise. Yesterday, the Prime Minister gave a press conference on a general COVID issues, but he did make kind of oblique mention of the Djokovic scenario, and he did say that he reiterated the point about players having to have, or people having to have, vaccinations entering into Australia, and he also mentioned the point about just because you have a visa, that just gives you an eligibility to enter the country. It doesn't guarantee you entering into the country. So we had a fair idea where it's going, and there was a bit of drama about it today. It was delayed until the last minute, really 10 to 6 in the evening here, just in time for the main news headlines and the TV, just per chance on that. And now we don't really know what's going to happen now. Our initial thoughts were that Djokovic would go back into detention. We're not quite sure about that. I think the latest is that he's been asked to attend an interview tomorrow, but his lawyers have said that they will seek to challenge this in the courts, and that's going to be interesting, very, very interesting. Their first thing will be to try and keep him in the country. Their second thing will be to try and get him to play on Monday. And then the third thing, obviously, will be to override the minister's decision, which will be very, very, very difficult for them to do so, given that it's a discretion issue and a judicial review type. So look, it's ongoing at the minute. The mood, though, has very much hardened in Melbourne and Australia against Djokovic. And there is no doubt that the politicians involved were acutely aware of that. Very much hardened against Djokovic.
Can you explain to us, Jack, why the overturning of the visa cancellation earlier in the week has once again been overturned, or how that's possible?
Yeah, so what happened is Djokovic gets the medical exemption to come in. He gets a visa to come in. And all seems in order, to be honest. As far back as November and into December, he arrives in early January, and suddenly the border force says, no, actually, we don't think that medical exemption is what's required. Your visa is cancelled. And then we have the drama of the first court case. Now, looking back on the first court case, he succeeds in getting the visa cancellation overturned, and he gets his visa back. But looking back on it, he I'm not saying the judge was quite generous, but it was a very narrow procedural ground on which to succeed. His lawyers did a very, very good job, and the government lawyers weren't very good, to be honest. They seem to be rushed on that. So he gets back his visa, and off we go. But under migration law, the immigration minister here in Australia has a personal power to revoke a visa or to uphold or to grant a visa. It can go either way. And that's what the immigration minister decided here. It's a personal power. And it was an interesting process because the immigration minister took his time during the week. I think they were taking the political temperature as well. But they consulted with the border force. They consulted with the Department of Health. And they consulted and allowed Djokovic's legal team to make submissions. And then they decided whether or not the minister could, in the public interest, public health grounds, either allow him to stay on the visa or cancel the visa. So that's where we go. And Australian immigration law allows that. But what was interesting during the week is it was kind of like a drip against Djokovic, or at least against the case he was trying to make. So it ends up that there are now, we think, 3 jurisdictions where there are questions about his behaviour. Serbia, after a positive test. How did he get into Spain, not being vaccinated for training purposes? And how did he get into Australia? So that came out. It came out about the actual, one of the travel declaration forms. He said he hadn't travelled anywhere 14 days previous to arriving in Australia. It turns out he had, from what we gather. And then there was the kind of general issues around this L'Equipe interview, which you may have, when he was positive and he was photographed unmasked. So those kind of all issues built up. The political issues built up as well. And you've got to realise here in Melbourne and in Australia, Omicron is getting to its peak. Melbourne has the same population as the Republic of Ireland. We had 35,000 cases today. Hospitalisation rates are getting serious. And there are issues about whether for the 3rd year in a row the schools will reopen. So you've got all that context. And actually the Prime Minister has just given a press release which put all those things in together. You know, ultimately, there was a very, very strong political element to it. But we are where we are now. The interesting thing where we are now is that Djokovic's visa has been cancelled. So he's illegal in Australia at the minute. And technically under the Act, that means that he could be deported and that he would be banned from re-entering the country for 3 years. Which is going to be interesting. But there's going to be talk now. There's going to be negotiations. Djokovic will probably contest this. He'll probably go for it. It's going to be difficult. But I wonder whether the lawyers are saying to him now, and it was interesting, Martina Navratilova said this today as well, that you just go, enough. We've all made our point here. whatever that point that is, and that he leaves voluntarily. So there's an option there as well. But it's going to be an interesting few hours. I think the main winners will be Djokovic's rivals, Nadal included. The main loser will be Tennis Australia. And I think a lot of this goes back to what happened in November about the medical exemption.
And Jack, just when you mentioned the appeal route there, do you think he may contest this? What would that be like exactly? How long does that take? Does he stay there while it happens? Does he go back home, or what is that appeal like? Yeah, so I think he'll push very strongly for something to happen this weekend, because effectively he's playing Monday against a fellow Serb. Ironically, he got a very, very good draw. He actually got a really, really good draw. But he has to play Monday. So things have to be in some way progressed Monday. But it's going to be really difficult for him legally. The minister took his time, was very deliberate, consulted widely, and even consulted with and allowed submissions from Djokovic. It ultimately comes down to the minister's discretion. Unless there's something totally unreasonable or irrational, to use that legal phrase, about what's been done here, it's very difficult for Djokovic. Now, having said that, he has a very, very good legal team in Hull Wilcox, top sports lawyers here in Melbourne. They're very good. Everyone says, justice is blind. We treat everyone the same, but justice may be blind, but it listens occasionally to money, and there will be a lot of resources as we speak going into this.
Especially when it comes to the pace of it, or getting it before a judge this weekend. Like just reading up on it, Jack. So this case will go back to the Federal Circuit Court. Is that right? And Anthony Kelly, who was the judge who overturned it in the first place. So it would be the same thing.
It'll go back to the Federal. Sorry, it'll go back to the Federal Circuit Court. I'm not sure Anthony Kelly will take it. Right. They have a judge on standby for this. They knew this was coming, so they have a judge on standby for this and to hear this. If it comes to that, it may still not come to that. It may be the case that Djokovic goes voluntarily, and as part of that, the 3-year ban is waived. So therefore, he would be allowed to come back next year. And maybe something like that happens. We're not quite sure yet. But either way, whatever judge it is, it's going to be very, very difficult for them, because they are very narrow grounds in terms of the Migration Act itself.
Djokovic posting on Instagram the other day referring to the administrative mistake made by his agent, the error of judgment on his part by not isolating. Was that a mistake in your opinion?
Yeah, so in some ways, so what happened there was on the border declaration form, anyone coming into Australia has that mad panic, 2 hours before you come in to fill out these forms. But, he said, no, I hadn't travelled anywhere in 14 days previous. He actually had. So the yes, no, he got the wrong, tick the box. He said it was his agent did it. And it was just a human error. Under the Migration Act, it doesn't matter. It's your personal responsibility to do so. It's not the most serious offence, but it is another factor within that, as would have been the examples I gave of the previous test, the behaviour in Serbia and Spain. All of these accumulate. And essentially what the minister was saying today is, whether or not one unvaccinated man effectively in a tennis hub in Melbourne for a set period of time is going to make a huge difference to what we're facing with Omicron now. Yeah. It's not really the point. It's the principle and the deterrence against others. That's what the minister is saying today. And that will be the point that he made on good order and public health and in the public interest.
Sorry, just one last question, Jack, very quickly. Is there a world in which he can appeal, and while the appeal is pending, can he play?
Oh yeah, this is the kind of the disaster for Tennis Australia, whereby his lawyers go in at the weekend and argue, listen, we want an injunction, get him out of, or keep him out of detention, let him play Monday, because if he doesn't play Monday, it's all over. And let him keep playing pending the final decision on this. But that could take into the week, because it would then be in the interest of Djokovic's lawyers to slow it down, if you know what I mean. So it could get really, really messy. I think it's in everyone's interest, though, to get something done this weekend. But I think it's very much odds against Djokovic at this stage.
So it's a slim chance that he gets deported while holding the Australian Open trophy is what you're saying. Jack Anderson, great having you on the show as ever. Thanks a million for being with us.
Thanks to you both. All right.
Cheers.
Bye.
Professor Jack Anderson there from the University of Melbourne, and that story is quickly developing. It's fair to say just the latest update really is that there have been arrangements made for Djokovic to attend an interview with immigration officials tomorrow. So what I suspect may happen before the end of the day today in terms of this agenda moving on is family Djokovic to gather around microphones back in Serbia and give us some fire and some incredible quotes before the end of the day. But as for hearing from Djokovic, I'd be surprised if that happened. I'd say he'll be told to keep quiet himself, and that there'll be more developments after that interview with immigration officials tomorrow. There's obviously a lot of different kind of ancillary storylines to this, not least I guess Australian society and law in Australia. Like the Australian Lawyers Alliance has released a statement saying the broad discretion given to the minister means that political considerations drive decisions that can seriously impact people's lives. It is astonishing that we have allowed one person to have this level of unchecked control and extraordinary power. And it does seem that way, that really it has come down to the fact that despite the fact that Federal Circuit Court Judge Anthony Kelly ruled in Djokovic's favour largely earlier in the week, that you still have Immigration Minister Alex Hawke, who had the keys to this whole thing. And very interesting there at the start of that piece with Jack, that he said that they were waiting a few days just to take the political temperature, and I think there's probably a lot of truth in that. Delighted to say we've got OTB's resident tennis expert Colm Boohig on the line now as well. Colm, what is your reaction this morning to seeing not your beloved Novak Djokovic, your least favourite tennis player Novak Djokovic getting his visa revoked?
Owen and Aisling, how are you? Not surprised ever since Novak Djokovic posted his latest social media post the other day. I thought he's done here because he's admitting so many errors. And I think it was just a matter of time. But then I woke up, about 6:30 Irish time this morning, and there was still no news. And that was, close of business Friday in Melbourne. And I thought they're actually just going to stay silent on this and nothing's going to happen. And then, lo and behold, they made that decision, which, up until a minute beforehand, I wasn't sure if they were actually going to go through it, because, as Jack just told us, the legalities behind it, and they can easily justify why they're redeparting Djokovic. I was thinking monetarily and commercially, it's such a monumental loss to the tournament that Novak Djokovic isn't going to play in this Australian Open, because he is the tournament's most successful player ever. But, talking to people in Australia, like friends and cousins over there, people are furious again. And this story has taken kind of a sandwich cycle in that when it first broke, everybody was furious with Djokovic, all around the world, like how dare he get his medical exemption when Melbourne's been cumulatively the most locked down city since COVID began in the world. And then last weekend, I felt when he was in the detention centre that there was a certain growing air of sympathy towards Djokovic, that his freedom had been taken away, so to speak, and he was in this detention centre. And then, of course, it raised the plight of refugees and asylum seekers in much worse conditions. But then I feel that the sandwich has been complete this week again, ever since it's been established that he went to that, or he did that to keep interview in Belgrade with that journalist when he knew he was COVID positive. But I think when he revealed that, I was very surprised that he didn't confirm it. I think it was all over then in terms of public sympathy and his legal right to play the tournament.
I know, and just the question that you last brought up, just if he could play, like I never even thought about that if the appeal process was going through and he could still play. Like I think it's probably a long shot here by Monday to get this sorted, but wow. Owen, like, I don't know, Colm, what you think. Imagine the outrage in Australia then.
It'll be crazy. I mean, I'm just imagining Aisling like the first round match where Djokovic would, funnily enough, play a fellow Serb in Myanmar, Cekmanovic, and there's such a large cohort of Serbian people in Melbourne who would give Djokovic vociferous support. Then you'd have basically the rest of the world represented in the stadium you can just imagine the cheers. It would be overwhelming. and tennis wouldn't really be renowned for that type of raucous atmosphere really in the large, but Australian crowds they're good crack. Generally speaking, you get a lot of value watching the Australian Open on TV, but this might tip over to a point where it's not pleasant for anybody. So at this stage, although it's a massive loss for the tournament that Djokovic isn't playing for the competitive nature of the men's side, I think it's best for all concerned that he doesn't. But it opens huge questions now about Djokovic's future at the Australian Open. 9 of his 20 Grand Slams have been won down under, and of course, if he had won this Australian Open, then he would be officially the greatest men's player of all time on paper. So it's really fascinating, and this upcoming Drive to Survive inspired documentary on tennis is going to be even more interesting now. What a racket, lads!
Do you know what I think is?
You nearly missed that, Owen.
I almost did. Do you know what I think is going to happen here, Colm? And Novak Djokovic's dad is a hard man to predict. We were kind of saying earlier on, where can he go after comparing his son to Spartacus Water and Jesus? Was Jesus or God? One or the other. He probably thinks he's God and Jesus. But what I think will happen now is that he could potentially come out in a press conference today and compare his son to Muhammad Ali and say, the peak years of Muhammad Ali were taken away by the pesky government of the United States, and that just added to the whole tale of Muhammad Ali and the lore. That is what we will now say about Novak Djokovic as Novak Djokovic family and Novak Djokovic ultras, that actually you've taken away potentially 3 Australian Open titles for him. And you know what? It doesn't matter. He's still going to go down as the greatest. He's still going to eclipse 20 Grand Slam titles, and we did it in spite of you. That in a way, this will actually just, for people who want the legend to go that way, it will increase the legend around Novak Djokovic. His fans will be utilising this in some sort of strange siege mentality way.
Yeah, this is Djokovic's own personal Vietnam War. This is his Ali moment. It will totally strengthen the resolve of his fans. Because one thing I was thinking about was that the Immigration Minister Alex Hawke was delaying the decision, and I was wondering, it is plausible that they were waiting for Djokovic to voluntarily walk away, so then he would save himself a 3-year ban. But that was never in Djokovic's nature. That's exactly what he won't do. And so fans were like, he stayed true to his own principles, and he didn't give in here, and he's not playing this tournament, but he's better off for it. And then he still has 3 more Grand Slams to go this year, so you still wouldn't back against him finishing 2022, leading the Grand Slam title race against Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. So for Djokovic's camp, this kind of changes nothing. For everybody else, his legacy is again questioned.
Talk us through what this actually does then on the tennis side of things. I think we're probably going to talk here under the assumption that he's not going to appear.
Yeah.
I think looking through your notes here, you're extremely excited about what Nick Kyrgios and Daniel Medvedev could do if they come up against one another. There are a lot of exclamation marks on this document in front of me.
Yeah, I was like, Joe was asking me, Producer Joe, do you have any notes here? And I was like, well, I do, but they're not succinct. So I'll forward them on to you. And it was in block capitals. Nick Kyrgios could play Daniel Medvedev in the second round. So Kyrgios has COVID, so he's recovering. He's hoping to recover in time to play. So we hope he does play. Time of talking, he is playing. And he's due to play a qualifier in the first round. And Medvedev should win his first round. So then that'd be a blockbuster second round. Medvedev reached the final of the Australian Open last year, lost to Djokovic fairly comfortably, but then beat Djokovic at the most recent Grand Slam at the US Open to deny Djokovic his all-time record. So now that Djokovic, as you say, it looks like he's not playing at the time speaking, Medvedev is by far, I would say, the favourite to win the tournament. So I'd say Kyrgios' journey will probably stop at the second round if he does play. But it would still be a great match because the atmosphere will be class. Other than that, though, Rafael Nadal won the Melbourne Somerset. It's his first tournament that he's won in Australia since 2009. Now, it's his least successful Grand Slam out of all 4 for Nadal. He's only won the Australian Open once, way back in 2009. But of course, he's level with Djokovic with 20. So out of the big 3, he's the only one playing now because Federer is injured. So Nadal, now this makes it a lot easier that Djokovic doesn't play because Nadal was due to play Djokovic in the semi-final if he had beaten Alexander Zverev in the quarter-final, which I think would be a close match. So I would say if I was to make a prediction right now, the men's Australian Open final this year would be Rafael Nadal against Daniel Medvedev.
And whoever comes out on top, let's say that Djokovic doesn't play, and whoever comes out on top, is it tainted a small bit that maybe the best player isn't playing?
It's a good question, Aisling, because yes, to put it simply, But then, say if Nadal wins, then it's just, his 21st Grand Slam title. And he's due it, it's justified. Then he can go on and add to that at the French Open. If Medvedev was to win the Australian Open, and I do feel he's favourite, then I do think that people will say, well, it's because your biggest rival wasn't there. But Medvedev's not going to care at the end. No one who wins this is going to care at the end of their career.
No.
They still won the Australian Open. But everybody will be talking about it. And I suppose, look, the shame about this for all the other men in the competition on that side of the draw anyway is that, the commentary is going to be about Djokovic throughout, whether he plays or not. And look, I do whatever you think about this whole situation. It's a mess already from everyone, from the Victoria stage to the federal government, Tennis Australia, Novak Djokovic. Nobody comes out of this well. But I'm sad that Djokovic isn't playing because I think it makes the competition less on the ATP side. I would love to be playing.
On the ATP side, it will have an asterisk beside it, which, Colm, I'm sure you'll agree, is just like Cork's All-Ireland win in 2010, and that asterisk that it has beside it as a result of not beating Kerry en route to winning that All-Ireland, the handiest All-Ireland. It'll be the handiest win ever for whoever does do it. Just before we let you go, Colm, because we are out of time, anything else that you're buzzing for next week?
Yeah, well, the first round of the women's side, Emma Raducanu against Sloane Stephens, battle of the US Open champions. Raducanu, of course, is the defending champion of the US Open, won that whole tournament without dropping a set. And Sloane Stephens is a former champion, so that would be a brilliant first round match. So someone big is going out early. And then probably the most exciting element of the women's side of the draw is in the fourth round, the potential clash is Naomi Osaka, who's back, the defending Australian Open champion, one of two of the last 3 years, is up against world number one and home favourite Ash Barty. That could happen in the fourth round, so that would be unbelievable. Barty's the defending Wimbledon champion, looking to become the first Australian to win the Australian Open in 44 years. That would probably be the match of the tournament on April 4th round. Osaka against Barty, all going well.
Good stuff. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say also this is the first Grand Slam since 1997 not to contain either of the Williams sisters, Serena or Venus, not playing.
Right, okay. We will be checking in with you all next week, Colm. Enjoy your last weekend of tennis-free action this weekend, and you will not get a moment's sleep.
I'll be in Mexico. You won't be.
You'll be what?
I'll be in Mexico.
You'll be in Mexico?
I will, yeah.
Oh, sorry. All right. Okay. Enjoy Mexico. Is that the honeymoon?
Yeah, well, it's part of it. Yeah.
All right.
It is. Yeah.
Part of it is amazing.
I'll still talk to you. Fine. I'm happy to talk to you, but I'll be in Mexico. I'll be 16 hours behind the Australian Open action. I was googling.
Nice one, or 8 hours in front if you want to put it that way. Colm, enjoy the honeymoon. Hope you've got a great one. We'll chat to you later.
Go on, lads. Take it easy. Bye.
Colm Boohig there on the line. The big story this morning, obviously, that Novak Djokovic is going to have his visa cancelled, and there will be an appeal over the course of the weekend. But the real sense is that Alex Hawke, the immigration minister for Australia, is on relatively stable footing, and that it's not going to be turned around on this occasion, despite the fact that it will go back to the same court at some point over the weekend. Right, it is 2 minutes past 9. You're with us here on OTB AM, which is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. We want to take a quick break. Alan Quinlan is up next.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
He's a lion, he's a Grand Slam winner, he's Ireland's leading try scorer, and now you can hear him first, exclusively on the OTB Sports app.
One of my abiding memories is having my cut opened up again as I got hit by the trophy in coppers on the dance floor.
Join Brian O'Driscoll for the best insight and analysis this rugby season.
We haven't had the usual kind of grenades from Gats, that's gone, so we're creating them ourselves.
Get the jump on everyone else. Download the OTB Sports app and turn on notifications now.
We got McCarthy. Karen can sing the rest.
That'll do.
Keep up to date with the latest WSL action and the biggest interviews.
Him keeping an eye on our games, it just shows how big we're growing.
Subscribe to the Koi Gig podcast stream on the OTB Sports app now.
OTB AM
with Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
It's 3 minutes past 9. You're welcome back. It is time to turn our attention to a busy weekend of action for the Irish provinces in the Heineken Champions Cup. Delighted that Alan Quinlan is with us. Alan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Yeah, very well.
Morning, Alan.
Start with Cash against Munster tonight, and a lot of different themes, obviously, Alan, coming into this game from a Munster standpoint. Really interested in the RG Snyman situation, though. First off, I saw you on Twitter saying that he's become a club legend. That I get the sense from your tweet that he's that you think that he's doing Munster not a favour, but he is going to be held up, and as somebody that the Munster fans have a huge amount of respect for after the decision this week, which is interesting because I would have thought before this week that Munster could have been doing Snyman the favour by, I guess, giving him another deal, by staying loyal to somebody who is unfortunately, and it has just been a complete desperate lack of luck, who has unfortunately had 2 terrible injuries. So what's informing you, or what part of your head is telling you that this is actually Snyman doing Munster the solid rather than the other way around?
No, I think it's definitely going both ways. You know what I mean? The tweet was in jest a little bit, but I think I had a feeling straight away that he could have easily have left. He had a few offers from Japan. He had French clubs, English clubs, and people responded to that tweet saying that he had very few offers. It's not true. He had plenty of offers. Could have easily went and signed and made a lot more money elsewhere. And that's how it was that's the way I was feeling, that he could have walked away, and they could have kind of said, right, it was a bad investment. We lost a fair bit of money on this, but I think they have a chance. He's when I said that he's shown loyalty, he's actually taken a pay cut to play with Munster because he wants to try and repay the support and obviously the loyalty that they've shown to him, which I just think is a really good sign of his character. You know, if RG Snyman went, I think it would just been forgotten about and a bad luck story and stuff for both player and for Munster. But I know for a fact that he could have easily have went to a number of clubs, and he decided to stay because, you know, Johan probably convinced him to come to Munster, and Damien Dialende, he's close to him as well. So he's the one staying behind, really. And the reason for that is not to make more money, because he'll still be on a decent contract, but he's taken a pay cut and he wants to try and repay Munster. I just think it's a good sign of the guy's character that he actually wants to put on a Munster jersey, get a continued spell there, and be able to, in 2 years' time, if he leaves, say, well, look, it's the start of the journey was terrible, but hopefully there's a happy ending to it, and for him and for Munster, which, you know, I just think he in fairness, obviously both sides have shown loyalty, and Munster gave him the opportunity to stay on. But you know yourself, on a fully fit RG Snyman, and bar some more disastrous luck, we always say people deserve a little bit of luck. There's no guarantee with that. But I think everybody in World Rugby would love to see him playing again.
Of course.
And hopefully we see that.
Absolutely, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if there was other offers there, but it's good to know that there actually was, and that is an important element of the story when we're analysing RG Snyman's relationship with Munster. We're just going to rattle through some of the other storylines, because there are a lot this week, Alan, and just looking at the team for tonight, like Jack Crowley, and I guess his start to his Munster career has been spoken about quite a lot, about this idea of should Jack Crowley maybe leave Munster to try and get a little bit more game time, but the opportunities don't get much bigger than, you know, an Inter-Pro derby one week and then starting in the Heineken Cup the following week. Has he got it in him to take this opportunity?
Yeah, he has. I think there's something about this fella that is going to come really good. I think we saw the way he played in the under-20s. He's composed, he's confident. You know, he made 2 mistakes last week, dropping the ball when he took his eye off 2 passes he received. But even if Ben Healy was fit, I think I would have went with Jack Crowley, and only because that's not to be disrespectful to Ben Healy, that I think Munster need to attack, and they need to play with a little bit of pace, tempo, attacking mentality tonight. Obviously, you've got to box clever and kick in the right areas, and you know, if Munster get a win tonight, it doesn't have to be all bells and whistles. But I just think they're going to have to go for it a little bit of times, because we saw what Cass can, you know, the way they smother teams. They've made wholesale changes and they're very hard to analyse. I looked at their team. There's some very good players in their team, but it's hard to figure out what their mentality will be like. I think Munster are a big scalp for him. There's a bit of rivalry between the two sides, and even though effectively you could say they're out of Europe after losing their first two games at home to Quins and away to Munster, they'll not like nothing more than to beat Munster tonight. So it's a tricky one. So I'm glad Jack Crowley is there, and I really hope for his sake and for Munster's sake and for everybody, because I think this guy has the potential to, to go all the way, and he has that ability.
And Quilly, just on Johan van Graan, last week you had said, you wanted him to come out and say that we're not happy with the performance and that they're going to do everything in their power to fix it. I spoke to him actually during the week just at the press conference, and he basically said that, he thinks they performed a lot better last week. There was massive improvement, and just that everybody knows his heart that, he's in it, till the end, till he leaves. He's put his heart and soul into it. He's going to do his very best, and he doesn't want the next 6 months to be about him. And he's very much a Munster man. What is your opinion on all of that?
Well, look, I think it's been tricky for him, and I suppose it's the nature of the business, Aisling. You know what I mean? When whether people are like it or not, Munster are a big story all the time, and he's managing a big club. He's going to probably have to deal with it. And although the performance and the win last week was so much better, a bad performance tonight, and it's going to be a negative week next week. That's just the reality of it. But look, enough has been said probably from him, and I think it's probably difficult straight after a game. It's probably not. It's not the way he kind of approaches things and becomes all emotional, really open. But the point was just, it's really for the Munster fans just to kind of let them know that his feelings a little bit more deep down. But look, I have no doubt they were probably angry with themselves and put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they got a good reaction. So it's tricky. Johan is a good fella, and I had no problem with him moving, because players do it. Professional sport is like that, and the decision is made, and it's probably time to move on with it now. But I think the whole thing stemmed from just seeing more attack and seeing more kind of energy in the performance, and what we saw in Connacht wasn't good enough for that group of players. So hopefully they can improve on that. And I think he clarified a few things during the week. I do believe his heart is in the job, and he has the integrity to kind of stay the course till the end of the season. Hopefully they can be in the mix. That's all anybody wants from a Munster point of view.
Yeah, and we just have a clip here as well from Johan van Graan.
Everybody on this school, everybody at the clubs knows my heart. I started here on the 19th of November in 2017, and I've loved every minute of it. I've put in my heart and soul together with everybody at Munster in this club. We're a united group. The most important thing is people. I don't want the next 6 months every week to be about me. Yes, I'm leaving. I've given my reasons. I've got incredible respect for Munster rugby and the Irish system, and I'll continue to do my very best till the last day that I leave here. And as I've said before, I see myself as a Munster man. My daughter was born here. I'll always refer back to Munster as my club, and I've done my best every single day that I've been here.
Yeah, strong words from Johan there. And I suppose, obviously, there's a lot of talk around it, a lot of noise around it. Does that affect the players, do you think, Quilly? Do they feed into all of this, or are they very much blocking it out? Or have you been in a situation like that, or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I've had coaches leave before, and probably the same sort of scrutiny, pressure hasn't been there. They've been pretty well funded the last number of years, and Johan, Stephen Larkham, Graham Rowntree, they're big coaches, they're big names. So I think the pressure has ramped up a little bit. And, I think the players, they've got to show their own leadership now and step up. And they're not exempt from the criticism either. It wasn't all about the coaching ticket in the Connacht match. The players were really poor as well. So collectively, they've tried to use it as a change going forward for themselves. That they don't let themselves slip to that kind of a performance again. It's not guaranteeing a win. But I just think there's more football in that team, and they hadn't played for a while. There's lots of mitigation for lots of teams. Ulster last weekend, Dan McFarland, a couple of big results pre-Christmas, great win in Claremont, and they would have been really disappointed to lose to 14 men down in Limerick when they, controlled the first 20, 30 minutes of that game. So it can happen, and sometimes it's down to match practice, having players available. So I think from a Munster point of view and from Eoin's point of view, he'll want his group of players to try and get a run and get a little bit of continuity in the team. But look, I think none of us want to be talking about this for the rest of the season. And but it potentially could happen again. And that's just, as I said, the nature of the business.
Quinny, just before you wrap, I wanted to chat a little bit about Connacht against Leicester tomorrow. Obviously, narrow losers in the first game between the two sides, so they'll be really confident that they can actually take a step towards finally getting out of their Champions Cup pool if they get the job done this weekend. We had Mallow Kelly on the show yesterday, who was talking about the prospect for Connacht, Ulster and Munster players potentially getting more of a look in the Ireland squad for the Six Nations because of the fact that Leinster have had so much time without a game. I think Brian O'Driscoll disagreed at that point himself. But do you think from Connacht's perspective, if you just focus on them, that there is a real window of opportunity this weekend and over the next weekends for them to put their hands up more so than usual for Andy Farrell's squad?
Well, I think the obvious one is Jack Carty, isn't it? I think his form has been really good. I think he's found a real spark to his game again. Looks confident, looks happy. And from a Connacht's point of view, getting a losing bonus point in Leicester, it's been well highlighted. The deficiencies probably were in that second half was set piece and probably the power game and physicality. But credit to them, to get that losing bonus point was massive for them. This is going to be a very physical, attritional game, and if they get a big result tomorrow, they're in a great position. They'll end up going to Stade in round 4, who are out of it really, and so getting into the round 16 for Connacht would be massive. I mentioned Conor Oliver last week in my back row depth chart, and I just think he's been absolutely fantastic for them. Reminds me of a more aggressive Neil back, because people nowadays in particular will it's always been the case, will talk about the size and the power, and you want bigger players and stuff like that. But Conor Oliver is over 100 kilos, and he's very powerful and very quick. And I think there's a lot of contributions he can make in a game, and he's been doing that with Connacht. So if he has a big couple of weeks, he could certainly be in the mix for involvement in the Six Nations. But overall, I think Connacht, like I said, they've got to deal with that power from Leicester and kind of weather the storm at times. I always said as a player, there's times in games where you're hanging on, and they're the times where you win these type of games. Steve Borthwick has done a brilliant job with Leicester. They lost last week to Wasps. Wasps probably gave a little bit of a template of how to play against them. Just being really forceful and aggressive and accurate at the breakdown, and really good line speed, which Connacht do. The other area, they've got to be just careful with the discipline. I think they're so enthusiastic getting off the line.
Yeah. And
you don't want to be giving George Ford penalty opportunities, because Leicester will happily just kick the ball over the bar tomorrow, win the game and get out of there. So there's a couple of areas, but I'd be confident that they can get a good performance and a big performance tomorrow.
All right, good stuff, Alan. And I know you're on commentary as well for Leinster against Montpellier on Sunday afternoon, so we'll hear from you then. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Alan Quinlan there on the line. It is 9:17 on this Friday morning. You're with us here on OTB AM, brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Now, JP Gilbern, who you've heard the voice of on Off the Ball for the first time ever last night. He's been Off the Ball senior producer for 5.5 years, and he finished up yesterday and finally got his moment in the limelight, which included this sensational tribute from one Republic of Ireland football legend. Crappy Quiz is up next.
Usually on a night out, I would usually sing a song anyway at the end of a night, and I just tried to rejig the words of one of my favourite songs. So here goes. I'll sing this, JP, just for you. Good luck with everything. Here goes. Dear Ger, I write this note to you to tell you of me plight. I am just sick of working with this shower of shite. My body is all black and blue, my face a deathly grey. And I write this note to say why JP's not at work today. While working on the second floor, some shite I had to clear. Now to throw it down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman Barry wasn't pleased, he'd been an awkward sod. He said I'd have to cart it down a ladder on a hod. Now shifting all this shite by hand, it was so very slow. So I hoisted up a barrel and secured the rope below. But in me haste to do the job, I was too blind to see that a barrel with Malloy and Murphy was heavier than me. So when I untied the rope, the barrel fell like lead, and clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. Well, I shot up like a rocket till to my dismay I found that halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Well, the barrel broke me shoulder as to the ground it sped, and when I reached the top I banged a pulley with me head. I clung on tight though none was shocked from this almighty blow, and the shower of shite spilt 4 floors below. Now when usually on a night out, I would usually sing a song anyway at the end of a night.
Chris Martin.
Oh, you're kidding me.
September.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know, it's not right.
Anybody else?
Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Welcome along to the shoutiest segment on Irish radio. It's the scintillating, it's the stupefying, it's the splendido crappy quiz. Every Friday we pit 3 of Team Off the Ball up against each other in a no-holds-barred quiz of sporting factoids at the end of the week. Allow me to welcome today's contestants. Our first contestant is back for revenge after getting screwed over on a question surrounding Irish goalkeepers last week. I always take full responsibility for my errors, but I would like to blame Wikipedia for not listing Kieran O'Hara's 2 caps on their page about Republic of Ireland footballers. Give it up for the king of the Midlands, Will Walk-and-Roll O'Callaghan.
I
wouldn't mind on, right? But I believe Nathan Murphy is now not part of this quiz today.
No, he's not.
He bottled it.
After he got away with getting 4 points incorrectly last week, because one of our YouTube commenters also pointed out that you had the amount of trophies won by Phil Jones incorrect, which should have meant that 3 points would have went to me as opposed to Nathan. So effectively 4 points were stolen last week.
That is,
and I lost by 3.
2 points of information on that. First of all, I always say at the end of the Fun Free Magic number round, numbers plucked from Wikipedia. So
sometimes you forget to say it because you got a bit complacent. You know, the old host would never forget to say according to Wikipedia.
Actually, yeah. Well, I'm just terrible. But
quality.
It is just quality rather than complacency. But I do always state, or I should state, it's always written on the paper that numbers are plucked from Wikipedia. And Phil Jones, his League Cup medal, which, you know, he wasn't in the match day squad, I checked that. He wasn't in the match day squad for. It's not listed there. So there might actually be some dispute. I might actually be right. But I don't want to dig myself a hole here, Will. I apologise. I apologise on behalf of Wikipedia. They were wrong last week. So listen, take your issue up with them. Don't donate to Wikipedia if you want, Will, when they ask you to donate. No, sorry,
I mean, come on, it's worth €2 at least. Come on.
We've
been leeching off it for years.
We really have. Our next contestant today got COVID the day he got his booster over Christmas, and he is a megazord of safety right now. He's been spending the last week doing the most inherently risky things he could possibly do, which is, of course, jumping on his trampoline. Give it up for Ger Gilroy.
Hey, I got the COVID. I got the remedy.
Nice. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels great to be super boosted.
I mean,
a Gigantosaurus of immunity.
I think it's Gigantosaurus. I think it's the first time since March 2020 that we've had more than one quiz contestant in studio as well. So,
all right, so we're living dangerously here.
It really is the Gigantosaurus of safety.
And the first people to get Omicron twice were Owen and Ger.
Our last
you haven't had it, have you?
No.
Oh. Well, you're gonna get it now.
Our last contestant today is known as John Joe Shelby among his friends, and you don't need me to tell you why. Let's just say his long-range shooting and five-a-side happens to be pretty good. Give it up for Phil the Power Egan.
May not be that good, by the way.
No?
Nah. To be honest, it's rare I would take a shot from distance.
You're a midfield stroller. That's what I have in my head.
No. Solid right back who likes...
Really?
Yeah.
No, you're Philip Lamb, no?
No, enjoy defending.
Right.
Kenny Cunningham would
Paul
appreciate...
McGrath.
Yeah, he'd appreciate it. Get a nosebleed, go over the halfway line.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't really be a right back at five-a-side, can you?
No. Do you know what ends up happening? Everyone streams forward and I'm just left there at the back going...
Just holding the position down here.
Exactly. And then everyone's so wrecked by the end of say halfway through five-a-side, I end up in a role up front, but again, not my most comfortable position.
Quizmaster, when's the last time you played five-a-side?
Last summer.
Oh, really?
And I was sore for, I'd say, 10 days. Genuinely, Astro is very, very sore.
Yeah. Which one was it? The little black bits that kind of make it softer, or was it like an old-style hockey pitch?
The black bits that make it softer.
Yeah, which end up in your socks for weeks after.
I think it was anyway. But God, it was unbelievably agonising. I couldn't get over how sore I was for days afterwards, so I haven't come back since. I also played left back and just hid from everyone. It's
good
early.
English. Impossible.
I can do English good. Okay, so the format of the Classic Crappy Quiz is the same as ever. Series of questions on a range of different themes, and then it's onto the rapid fire round. You can podcast us on otbsports.com or on the OTB Sports app, and please send any questions you have via postcard to Crappy Quiz Quizmaster, Off the Ball Towers, Marconi House, Diggs Lane, Dublin 2. Before we start, a quick comment to be read out from a Twitter user called John in Donegal, who replied to a tweet about last week's quiz saying, "Please take this rubbish off the airwaves. So much of what OTB do is very good or excellent. Then there's this, I have to switch channel every time and I otherwise enjoy OTB so much. You can do this all you like in private."
We should come to his house and do a crappy quiz in his garden.
That would be a good idea. John in Donegal, we would love to come up and do an OB from your garden.
The postmasters are amazing all around the country, so if we just were to send a message to him and follow the post, the postman would go, that's that guy. We know he's a complainer. He's always like, oh, you delivered all my parcels, but this one, it fell too far on the floor and I had to bend it. That's the guy.
Yeah,
that's
is
the one we want.
I
love all this free stuff you give me, except this extra bit over here, which I don't like. Stop it.
John Donegal, we're coming to you. We're coming to meet you. Round one is the boring questions round, never multiple choice. Will, you're first up. As all fans of real sport know, January means one thing and one thing only: WWE's Royal Rumble. Who has won Royal Rumble the most times?
Steve Austin.
Correct.
Here.
What?
He's a mad wrestling fan. He had a wrestling podcast.
I know, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he knows everything about wrestling.
Well, I mean, it seems like he does.
Well, I can't really disagree with you. Jer, question one for you. Despite having a Week 18, Cooper Kupp couldn't break the record last week for the most receiving yards in a single NFL season. So, who still holds the record?
It's a 50-50. It's either Megatron or Jerry Rice. And I'm going to go with Megatron.
Correct. Calvin Johnson has the most receiving yards in an NFL season. Massive NFL fan, Jerry Gilroy, of course, getting a question about NFL. Massive football fan, Phil Egan, question one for you. Which club has lost more English League Cup finals than any other?
Ooh.
That is Will's dog.
I hope
so. That is Will's dog trying to knock over both my microphone and the light.
What is your dog's name?
His name is Hank.
Hank, can we get an introduction to Hank on the Crappy Quiz? Because
Hank O'Callaghan.
Bailey was the dog of 2021. Hank is really chasing after the limelight this year.
Yeah, come on, Hank.
Yeah.
What was?
I'll get my
give me some more time to think about this one.
It was Maguire first. And then
Bailey.
In between the cockapoodle, did
Buster.
Keith Andrews.
Yeah,
Keith
Buster.
Andrews. Oh,
Yeah.
Buster, yeah.
There's definitely a podcast in this.
Oh, it's a new
look at
dog.
Hank. Oh, you blurred his face out.
His face, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just
protecting the innocent.
GDPR and all that, probably.
If you see this dog in the street, you won't be able to recognise him.
Yeah, he's only 4 months old, so if anyone sees me walking him, that's what he looks like in blurred format. But that's Hank.
Can you put him in front of your face? See if we can get Hank's face.
Yeah, should be able to. Yeah. Hold on.
Come on, technology! Don't let us down.
There you
now.
go, Hank.
No. No, just to in front of your face.
Yeah,
so that we can't see your face. There you go.
Hey.
Hank, you don't know who's lost League Cup finals, do you?
Come on, Hank.
What type of dog is it?
He's a French bulldog.
And how big will he get?
I think he probably gets maybe half a foot bigger than he is right now. When I initially got him, you could hold him in one hand. So he's grown quite a bit in the couple of months I've had him.
I kind of feel like it's a tribute to Davy Boy Smith that Will is doing here.
Well, the problem is now he won't want to get back down now that he's up here. So I got him into a really good habit of not being in my arms when I was on air. But hey,
listen, he can help you out all you like. He
looks pretty comfortable.
We like the added hank.
Okay.
What have you got here?
So most League Cup final defeats. Okay, it's gonna think of a team that gets there a lot. I'll go with. I've got two in my head, and I'm going to say Arsenal.
Correct. They've lost 6 League Cup finals, the most second. Of any other. Tottenham second with 5. Round 2 is the Club GAA round. The rules in this round are simple. I'm going to give you the name of a Gaelic Games player. All you got to do is tell me the club they play for. Will, which club does Darren McCurry play for?
The presenter of the AIB Club Championship show on OTB Sports channels.
I may have softened towards Will after what happened last week.
All right.
Does he play for Dromore?
No, he doesn't play for Dromore.
Eden Dork?
Eden Dork is correct.
Oh, God damn it. I just followed him on Twitter this week. Can I not get that one?
Sure. What Clare club does Shane O'Donnell play for?
Oh, you're joking me.
We were talking about him on the show this week.
We weren't talking about his club, though.
We weren't. We were talking about his age, and he's only 27.
I'm just going to have to go with one of the famous Clare clubs. Clare Castle.
It's not. It's Arrow Oak. Phil, what club does Vicky Wall play for?
Dunboyne.
Oh, correct. Usually when someone gets a question correct, I just wait for people to start complaining, but that didn't happen that time. So well done, Jaron Will.
I was expecting the same as well.
Round 3 is the sports documentaries round. Given every sport in the world is getting the Netflix treatment in 2022, this round will test your knowledge on how well you know your hoop dreams from your When We Were Kingses. Will, question 3 for you. Which driver was the main focus of the first ever episode of Formula 1 Drive to Survive?
Was it Ricciardo?
It is. It was. Daniel Ricciardo was got the Drive to Survive treatment first. Correct. Sure.
Did he not say like Ricky Ardo, and that's like a completely different human being from Daniel Ricciardo? He's one of the Temple No Ardos.
Ricky Ardos, yeah. Or was one of the Ardos, yeah.
It was a slight Tommy dressage moment, but hey, there we go.
Dressage. Question 3 for you, Ger.
Who said dressage?
Tommy. And Adrian forgot who Valtteri Bottas was and called him Balteri a couple of weeks ago as well. So there were 2 top class moments.
If only we were smart enough to keep an offcuts, we'd actually have a funny slot.
We should do. And Johnny Ward last week said on air, "I'm slowly losing the will to live here," which is a good tagline for the crappy quiz, I think it's fair to say. Ger, question 3 for you. Can you name the only ESPN 30 for 30 that has won an Oscar for Best Documentary Feature?
OJ.
Correct. What's the full name of the documentary?
I just got the beep, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's fine. OJ Made in America, correct. We're 2-2. Phil, to go one ahead. "Oh, do I not like that" is the eternal phrase uttered by Graham Taylor in The Impossible Job when England were playing who?
This was on recently, and I haven't seen it since it originally aired. Right, okay.
Did you watch it again?
I didn't. It's recorded. I haven't watched it. Oh, do I not like that? I'm thinking it's the Dutch game. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Netherlands.
It's not.
Poland?
Poland is correct, yeah.
It was our group, remember? Wasn't it?
That's right.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
No, sorry, it was a qualifying match.
Yeah, it was were we not in the same group?
We were in the same group for Euro 92. I'm thinking of the 94 World Cup qualifiers where they didn't qualify.
So that's when he gets sacked. Who's the manager in 92? Is he the manager in 92?
He was, yeah.
And he gets the Euros.
He gets the World Cup qualifiers as well. Yeah, remember they got knocked out. He took off Gary Lineker, remember?
Yeah, when they were chasing them.
Yeah. But I was thinking of the World Cup qualifying campaign.
He had quite a long time as manager, in fairness. In retrospect, it feels like it was about 6 months and he got handed out. But actually, he had a full qualifying campaign, qualified for a tournament and then didn't qualify for a tournament. Yeah. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I remember seeing Graham Taylor in Glenbeigh when the show did the show from Glenbeigh. I went as a punter after doing my leaving cert. That was a Very, very good show. So congratulations to all involved. Round 4.
For the JP Gill run of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Round 4, we're 2-2, by the way. This is very exciting. Round 4 is a fun free magic number round. Contestants get 3 points for getting the number exactly right. If no one manages that, the nearest contestant who doesn't go bust gets 2 points. The second closest gets 1 point. I'm going to state that we can only accept the answer that's written on your paper. And I'm also going to have to ask for your pens once the music ends. So if you don't mind, give us the following number. The number of points scored for a goal in Australian rules, plus the number of professional wins clocked up by Shane Lowry during his career so far, plus the number of teams taking part in this year's Africa Cup of Nations, plus the number of British teams Mikel Arteta played for during his playing career. Your 30 seconds expire when Sinatra sings Bright Shiny Beats.
Sorry, what was the last one?
The last one is the number of British teams that Mikel Arteta played for during his playing days. Add that to the number of teams taking part in AFCON this year, the number of professional wins Shane Lowry has notched during his career, and the number of points you get for a goal in Aussie rules. So add them all up. What do you get?
Bubbles, bangles, bright shine. That's the second question.
Pens down. We will go with...
What's that face mean?
Will first.
I've gone with 29.
29, Ger.
43.
43, Phil.
38.
38, I can tell you. Phil gets 2 points, Will gets 1 point. Ger went bust, even though he came closest. The answer is 40. So let's go through these. It is 6 points you get for a goal in Australian rules. The number of professional wins clocked up by Shane Lowry during his career is 7. 5 in the European Tour, 2 in the PGA Tour.
I had 8 and then added 2 extra.
The number of British teams
AFCON.
AFCON is 24 teams, sorry. And then the number of British teams Arteta played for is 3.
Is it?
Everton, Arsenal and Rangers.
Did not play for City? No.
I don't think so. I will do it. I mean, I'm obviously on high alert after last week's
calamity. It doesn't matter. I'm bust anyway. I had 41, but I added 2 more.
He did not play for Manchester City. Just
felt bad about giving Larry grief for Saudi Arabia, so I give him an extra 2 wins.
Phil, you're on 4 points. Will, you're on 3. Jerry, you're on 2 points. We move on to the final. Our winner tonight will be decided in the round that separates the men from the boys, the Chris Woods from the Chris Trees. It's no team in particular, ridiculously easy rapid fire round. Go on, Will.
Where's Past the Parcel gone?
I know.
Oh, come on. It was the best. I was actually stuck in the car last week. I couldn't get out. Past the Parcel was so good.
Oh, it's a driveway moment.
Yeah.
Oh, well, definitely bringing it back at that. Well, not for John and Donegal. John and Donegal just gave me a cause for rethink.
No.
I was out walking the dog last week listening to it, and I was thinking no one's getting Nicky Colgan, and then Nathan got it. And then obviously
it was a very good round last week.
Yeah,
I was going to buy some drawers for a kitchen.
It is. I'm just going to put it on ice for 1 week after.
It was freezing in the car, but I was like, I have to listen to this now and see what happens.
There you go.
The clubs. I mean, I think you were very unfair on the Croaks thing. You kind of that was unfair. You gave it away.
I did.
You did. It was unfair on poor Johnny Ward, who needed a little bit of help.
He did need a bit of help.
But you also should have given Johnny Ward 2 points in theory, because he knew at that stage that he'd gone for Dr. Croaks. He still had Kilmacook Croaks in the back locker, and he didn't give that answer when it came back round to him.
Well, that was just plain stupidity.
There you go. a lot of skeletons in the closet coming out here. We'll bring it back next week. I'd just like to plug it out for a little while. Leave it rest. Put it on ice for a little while.
No, it's hot. It's hot right now.
Yeah,
I think even John and Donegal even likes that round.
Yeah, maybe. We'll bring it back next week, I promise. So we're on to the rapid fire round here. We're going to go Phil first, then on to Will, and then on to Jerry. If you get a question correct, I keep asking you questions until you get one wrong. Once you get one wrong, I deduct you a point, and we move on to the next person. So Phil Egan.
What's the score?
4-3-2.
Oh, that's crap. Go on.
Phil, are you ready?
Yeah.
Your 40 seconds starts now. What county is Shane Long from?
Tipperary.
Correct. Who are reigning champions of the Heineken Champions Cup?
Exeter.
No, Toulouse. Alex Wootton places rugby for which province, Will?
Connacht.
Correct. Which NBA team plays their home games at the Barclays Centre?
Oh, the Brooklyn, whoever Brooklyn are.
Correct. Which of these teams is not at AFCON this year? Zimbabwe or South Africa?
South Africa?
Correct. Who lost last year's Super Bowl?
Toulon
Chiefs. In what year did Scotland last play at a FIFA World Cup, Ger?
1990.
No, 1998. Name the Kildare senior football manager, Phil.
His name is gone from
Glenn Ryan.
Oh, come on. This is crap. Who? Brooklyn who? Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Beckham.
Come on.
If you had said to me just
the
Brooklyn
Dodgers,
I would have accepted it. So
yeah, Brooklyn.
That is, I'm accepting it. Wholeheartedly accepting it. Jer, you finish up on 1 point. Phil, you finish up on 3 points. And Will, you finish up on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Will O'Callaghan, you are the champ. Congratulations, Hank. Your daddy's a winner.
He won't get to say that too often. So I'm just really surprised he actually stayed quiet once he came up in my arms, because he was determined to try and pull the entire setup in front of the computer down midway through the quiz. But Hank very well behaved. So
Hank's a winner too, in fairness.
A winner is
deserved.
The blurred silhouette of Hank is the image.
You clearly were making it up to Will after last week, though. Like this is the problem with you millennials. Like, you do a lot of makeup stuff. You're like, oh, break up makeup. It's too much. It's too much. You need to just be consistent and be reliable. This is why we have problems with you. You need to be consistent and reliable instead of flighty and flaky. That's all I'm saying.
Inconsistent, but good in those.
The makeups.
Yeah, it's the start of Will walking around with Hank in his arm, like he comes into work, into the office, because radio presenters have been known for doing that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I miss Keith Andrews' dog.
Oh, like Keith Andrews or?
Keith Andrews. I remember one of my first experiences in radio was Twink coming in with one of the dogs. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more Paris Hilton in this case, but Twink will do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, they're the same person. Will, you can be the Twink or Paris Hilton of Team OTB. We would love to see Hank.
You need a big L man bag for it, though.
Yeah, 100%. Bring Hank.
No, a GAA bag. Just the head popping
Hank's big day out in Dublin. We need to see him. Will, congratulations. That is this week's Crappy Quiz. We'll chat to you next week.
Cheers, lads.
Chris Martin.
Oh, you're kidding me.
September.
Yeah.
Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
No. Is that right?
I know it's not right.
Anybody else?
Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Yes, indeed, that is just about our lot this morning. OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning, start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Off the ball live across the weekend. On Sunday, we'll have commentary with Brian Kerr on Tottenham against Arsenal in the North London derby. Alan Quinlan will join our coverage for Leinster against Montpellier. We'll have live coverage of that on Sunday. And then we'll be back here on OTB AM on Monday morning with reaction to the Champions Cup, Premier League, GAA and NFL reaction as well. It is a super wildcard round, so we'll have Mike Harrelson with us on Monday morning as well. We are signing off this morning with the full tribute to the great JP Gilbert.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday's Off the Ball. Nathan with you for this evening. And for the next little while, we're going to have a slightly different Off the Ball because I have an exclusive for you. Around 10 years ago, you might remember, Ray Foley and his little producer JP, they disappeared from Today FM, never to be seen again. What happened to their careers? I'm not quite sure. JP, most people assumed, was living in shame in a cave in Louth, somewhere down the outback of Louth. But I can actually reveal exclusively that JP, of Ray and JP fame, has actually been producing Off the Ball for the last 5.5 years. And would you believe it, today, his very last day, has finally decided to come on air. So we can all bow down in his presence.
Decided to come on air.
The love of the nation.
Dragged in, kicking and screaming. Not my decision.
Really not my decision. I thought you might be, but actually, and you've got your radio voice on and everything.
I don't have a radio voice. It's just a voice.
That's very.
Can I say from the outset, this is a horrific idea. Okay. I had no hand or part in the planning of this. I don't want to be involved in this. I thought I was nearly out the door. Well, give me a bottle of wine, kick my arse out the door.
Give me a bottle of wine.
Survived unscathed, and now I'm here to be humiliated in the grand tradition of OTB leaving gigs.
Normal service will resume in just a little while, but for the next few minutes,
who's producing this?
Please do indulge us, because we do want to mark JP's departure in appropriate fashion. He has been the most integral part of this show over the last 5.5 years, and you know it's a big deal when the big dog, Ger Gilroy, has come into studio
12.5 hours after the last time I was here today.
On a Thursday. Have you come up with anything decent in the last 12.5 hours?
Nothing.
Is this a performance review?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Actually, this is just a very public humiliation of you,
I did realise, JP, that this is our opportunity to get you to live power rank the most annoying off-the-ball presenters. Oof. Starting with the most annoying. Joe hasn't said a word. He's here, by the way.
I think we know where to start, JP, because, you worked with the most egotistical man in radio.
Nathan, you're sitting right there.
Am I going to say Ray Foley or Joe Malloy?
Hey,
what do you think?
Boom, no comment.
Joe Malloy, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone. Hello, JP.
This is actually terrible because I sent Joe a very sweetly composed text message earlier, and I really didn't think I'd have to face the man face
again.
to face. So this is very awkward. This is like the second date. It's very awkward.
Earlier on, JP and I exchanged words that, frankly, we couldn't say to each other.
No.
With eye contact. It was strictly, I can type this into a screen. So
I can't quit
now
you,
to
man.
be forced to confront him is, it is awkward, JP.
Well, read out the text. Read out the text. Come on, that's exactly the right thing. That's exactly what the audience is demanding. They demand that you read out the text.
He can't, because it's so complimentary of him that he would end up looking like a dick, so he can't.
They're also far too long. I mean, we've got our heart and soul into these text messages. Yeah. It is a sad day, though. I think we can all agree. A man with the finest work ethic, I think, in show business departs the scene. So I guess that's the reason we're making such a big deal is I think it's safe to say very few worked harder than JP across the last 5.5 years.
Some of the best nights that we've ever had have been at road shows where we've had some of the most famous people in the world coming and telling us their truths, and Joe and Nathan would have made the Keane and Neville thing look completely effortless on the screen and on the stage and for everybody who was at the room that night. But I know exactly the amount of work that went into making it such a tremendous visual extravaganza, making it feel like it was an event worthy of the venue, which before that, like, we used to do some events and they were good and they were a bit haphazard, and we would, by the seat of our pants, we would pull them off because sometimes we were having a few drinks before the show, that all stopped when JP arrived.
Oh, no, not on my say-so. This is all worryingly nice stuff, so the downside to this is going to be massive. So when does that kick in?
I know the listeners might think the presenters are egotistical maniacs and never have doubts, but there might be times where presenters do have doubts, and JP was always there to reassure you, like that night of Keane Neville where, let's be honest, Joey might have walked off stage and the first thing was a deep breath and and JP went, thought that was good.
Well, I wasn't in the firing line. I mean, you guys were faced with the runaway train that is Roy Keane in full Angel of Death mode. So that was like one of the most exciting nights I've ever been involved with in radio. In fact, probably the most exciting. That spread into the wee small hours in terms of legal, tying up loose ends and whatnot after it. But
just because you're gone doesn't mean you have to say everything.
I didn't get both barrels and more like you guys did, so I had a lot of sympathy for you that night.
Surely dealing with Keane wasn't as stressful as dealing with Ronan O'Gara at a roadshow.
The mercurial Ronan O'Gara, yeah. A latecomer often. Twice at least he showed up about half an hour in.
Now, one time wasn't there like a...
Can I just say, this is desperate stuff. People listen to this are like, who is this guy and why is he on the radio? Well, actually, it's perfectly evident why he has not been on the radio for the last 5.5 years.
It's a free
Nobody
ad.
wants this, but anyway.
It's a free ad for your new show. It's the last time that's ever going to happen.
What time is the new show on?
2.5, 4 today.
2.5 hours. How many songs per hour?
At least 8.
When's it starting, JP? It must be next week, is it? Because you're leaving today. So it's starting next week, right?
Very soon.
Oh, you've got a month playing golf. What is that? You're not starting for another month.
We're brainstorming.
I was a big fan of the Ray Foley show. Back. I mean, younger man than you are, JP. So I was a listener. I think back when you even did the blast late at night. Was it like 10 o'clock?
10 to midnight,
10 to midnight. And
Prime
then
time.
when we worked together in Today FM back in the day, and you had a segment, JP, that I always loved on a Friday. Feedback with JP.
Oh, no.
So JP, I don't know if this is going to come back and I've ruined it and you thought that the listeners would have forgot, right? And this is going to be your big return on the Monday.
Oh, it'll be happening. We will be flogging all those dead horses.
You see, I don't know in current cancel culture the way it worked, whether you'll quite get away with talking about Ryan Tubridy the way you once did back then. There might be a bit of a backlash. But I have come up with something for tonight's show called Feedback for JP.
Ooh, right.
And we've been talking, JP, to some of your favourite guests and analysts, and they've got a little message for you.
Oh, God.
Hello, JP. It's John here. Just first of all, wish you all the best in your new appointment. And I'd like to thank you for all the help you've given me over the years on Off the Ball. So sorry to hear you're leaving. I'm sure everybody else is. You'll be a big loss to the radio. But for the future, happy, healthy future to you and your family.
JP, you're gone. You're leaving us. Your next offer must be off the charts if you're leaving that team behind. Thanks a lot for the last good few years. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for hand-holding, guidance, helped me take my foot out of my mouth once or twice. And in honour, I grew this goatee for you. Well, that and wanted to be a bit more like Dan McFarland. Anyway, I hope the next gig is a winner for you. Be well.
Hi, JP. Well, sad to hear that you're leaving News Talk. Hope you're on to bigger, brighter and greater things. Hope you have a fantastic and successful time. And well, I thought I'd show you the outside things you only ever see inside and downstairs in the house. I do get outside now and again. But it's been great working with you. It'll be odd not to hear your voice every week. And just in simple terms, have a great one, enjoy it, and I hope we get a chance to meet again and work again.
JP, hope you don't think of me as a complainer over the years, but I'm on now because I'm These are confusing and difficult times we all live in. You know that. The listeners know that. Yet you've added to the fractured, unhappy nature of our existence. Not only by leaving, but by not making it clear what's going on. So really, this is just a message to say, what the f***.
Hi, JP. Keith Wood here. Just saying congratulations on your move. I don't know where you're going yet, but I'm presuming it's a good thing for you. I've really enjoyed all the direction and support over the years, and I hope you go on to better and greater things. Congratulations again.
You're leaving off the ball. I can't believe it. I really, really cannot believe that you're leaving. I'm going to miss those little texts that you send me in the afternoon. Can you do it? If you've got 1% chance of not doing it, don't say yes. Those stressful little phone calls that you give me when you want me on the show. But I am going to miss you. I'm going to miss those calls. 5.5 years ago in 2016 when we both joined Off the Ball together. Can you believe it? 5.5 years ago. How you've hung on this long, I do not know. Where do I start? How you manage me, I don't know. I really do not know how you manage me, especially around Christmas time. You know, those late nights occasionally that I would have had, and maybe arriving in late and you were getting stressed about me arriving and things like that, and the phone calls if I had to get in to do a morning pre-record. The editing king, of course, that you are. I'll still always love you for the time that I was interviewing Gordon Taylor from the PFA, and I managed to call him Graham on a couple of occasions. The editing chief himself, JP, got it edited out for me, so fair play to you. I appreciate that. But I don't know, mate. You're going back with your old pal Ray Foley here as well. He was always your first love. I know that. I know you said that you loved me, but it was always Ray. You always wanted to go back to him, so I just wanted to wish you all the best.
Oh, Kev.
Oh, never go back, though.
You got the man to show up. Bloody hell. God, he was living negotiations for the last 2 weeks.
Yes. Those snarky little texts you've been sending them all over the years. Just if there's 1% chance, don't say yes.
That is a thing. I mean, there's been many an evening where we've had Kev 100% locked in, and it turns out it was actually only 99, and JP would have to sort someone out in the space of about 6 minutes.
That's the gift that somebody else can now look after.
I think we can see from that video, and for anyone who's listening in on the radio, Kilban is basically sass.
In a bar?
Like he's in the Playboy mansion.
In a living room?
He's with a bottle of Jameson beside him.
And a few fingers of whiskey in that.
He's traded up from the Drambuie that's usually in the background. So
right.
Yeah, that was amazing. Listen, fair play to everyone. I'm going to have to text a lot of people afterwards to say thank you. That's very touching.
We obviously pay all those people to come on Off the Ball.
They're contracted.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian O'Driscoll's desperately scrambling to remember who's JP again. Which one's he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which one's he? Oh, you did good. Well done.
Thanks.
Well done.
Oh, is this over?
No, you've got to power rank the most annoying presenters.
Oh,
come on.
No, I'm not going to do that. Jesus.
I was tempted.
No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, have I done that privately? Yes.
Tempted. What was the highlight, JP? What was the highlight then?
The highlight was the people. The people. I mean, genuinely, as cheesy and as, I'm not a very nice person, so this is hard to do, but genuinely, and I've said this on any number of goodbye calls across the last couple of weeks, but the people are exceptional. Anyone listen to this, you got the pleasure of seeing the kind of the product of all the work that goes on behind the scenes, but the people here are incredible to work with. I'll miss them massively. I'll miss the people you never see, the likes of Paul Murnock, Catherine, Arthur, Cian outside, all those people. They don't get much of a shout out, but they're absolutely essential. So it's been my pleasure to work with them really closely as the shows have gone out, and I've lent on them. I was never a natural fit necessarily on the show, so anyone who comes after me is going to absolutely blow the bloody doors off. So it's only onwards and upwards, I would say.
You mean there were sometimes questions of the depth of JP's knowledge of the pre-season tournaments in the GAA. But you are a fountain of knowledge when it comes to golf.
No.
Are you going to join Golf Weekly?
Oh, is that door open?
Well, part of your leaving present is a free subscription to Golf Weekly Patreon.
Wow.
Just so you can get
Excellent.
some
Wow.
That is like the
Lloyd
Rolex
Murphy
watch.
goodness on a weekly basis.
Sweet. My sports knowledge has remained. I've sort of been immune to gathering sports knowledge in the 5.5 years I've been on the show. So, I've been around it, but I haven't quite assumed all that knowledge.
In terms of the most boring radio of all time, talking about someone's golf handicap is right up there. But clearly, your commitment level is shown by the fact that I think when you started, you were clearly a far better golfer than Joe Malloy. Yet that has changed somewhat. Is that fair to say, Joe? I think your handicap is quite a bit better than JP's now.
Well, listen.
Look at that steely look in his eye. Now he's getting competitive.
The man is he has no time for golf. He's what were your hours, JP? 10 a.m. to midnight.
About
generally on a good week.
And more. Yeah. Always a pleasure. All the way through.
Now we're getting there. We obviously had some big names there. Some of the biggest names in world sport paying tribute. One of them, though, wasn't just satisfied with the little few words of niceties. One of them wanted to pay proper, old-fashioned Irish tribute to a great man in JP Gilbert.
Usually on a night out, I would usually sing a song anyway at the end of a night. And I just tried to rejig the words of one of my favourite songs. So here goes. I'll sing this, JP, just for you. Good luck with everything. Here goes. Dear Ger, I write this note to you to tell you of me plight. I am just sick of working with this shower of shite. My body is all black and blue, my face a deathly grey. And I write this note to say why JP's not at work today. While working on the second floor, some shite I had to clear. Now to throw it down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman Barry wasn't pleased, he'd been an awkward sod. He said I'd have to cart it down a ladder on a hod. Now shifting all this shite by hand, it was so very slow. So I hoisted up a barrel and secured the rope below. But in me haste to do the job, I was too blind to see that a barrel with Malloy and Murphy was heavier than me. So when I untied the rope, the barrel fell like lead, and clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. Well, I shot up like a rocket till to my dismay I found that halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Well, the barrel broke me shoulder as to the ground it sped, and when I reached the top I banged a pulley with me head. I clung on tight though none was shocked from this almighty blow, and the shower of shite spilled 4 floors below. Now when the shite had fallen from the barrel to the floor, I then outweighed the barrel and so started down once more. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I sped towards the ground, and I landed on all the shite that was all scattered round. Well, I lay there moaning on the ground, I thought I'd passed the worst, when the barrel hit the pulley wheel and then the bottom burst. Well, a shower of shite rained down on me, I hadn't got a hope. As I lay there moaning on the ground, I let go of the bloody rope. Well, the barrel then being heavier, it started down once more and landed right across me as I lay upon the floor. Well, it broke 3 ribs in my left arm, and I can only say that I hope you'll understand why JP's not at work again. JP, all the very best. Thank you for everything you've done to me. Sláinte.
Come on, Kev.
Down at 1.
Evan Kilban.
I am definitely not worthy. That was some stamina from the big man. I mean, that was what, 4 minutes or something? Bloody hell.
5.5 years, JP, and your final moments are the peak.
I think radio complete. Done.
To say how things are going downhill quickly after your departure, Kevin sent me that. Obviously, he's in Canada, so there's a time difference. So he sent it to me in the middle of the night, and I was awake at about 6:45, half, watching it with one eye open, and sent it on to the production team. So Arthur, who's stepping into your role at the moment, just sent me a message after saying, "Have you listened to this in full? Is it okay?" To which I was going, "Not really."
It's a bit of blue for the dads. It's fine. It's grand.
Wow, that was sensational. I kind of want to leave now, Joe, and see what we could get from Kilban.
That's the most prepared he's ever been for anything he's ever done on the show. That's incredible. That's the ringtone. Jesus.
Absolutely. Great voice as well. I've only ever heard him over a drunken din. That was beautiful.
It was time for an ad break nearly, I would say, lads, is it?
There's no topping that at all. I think the entire nation is a bit shell-shocked.
Leave on a high.
Exactly. Yeah. Go out on that. JP, thank you for everything.
Nathan, it's been my privilege.
OTB Hall of Famer.
Jer, a privilege as well, and Joe, and everyone else. I'm not worthy of this at all, and I'm sorry that people listening and watching had to stick through this, but
I think
anyone who
Kevin Kilban made it worth their while.
He did. That was worth the admission fee alone.
Ladies and gentlemen, JP Gilbert.
Woo! Well done, JP.
Service will resume right after these.
Off the ball on News Talk. OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
No.